Good morning, it's 6 o'clock. It's Monday, the 8th of May. Today.
As my grandmother said when she was crowned, coronations are a declaration of our hopes for the future. And I know she's up there, fondly keeping an eye on us, and she'll be a very proud mother.
The love of a nation, the love of a son. The Prince of Wales pays tribute to the King at the Coronation concert last night. Time to roll your sleeves up after a weekend of fun. Today is the big royal help out as we're all encouraged to get volunteering.
No more 8 a.m. misery on the phone. The Health Secretary promises to end the appointment chaos with new online booking tools. And can we build new business ties with Hong Kong? A UK minister is heading there for the first time since China's crackdown on the territory.
Very good morning to you. I'm Stephen Dixon.
And I'm Ellie Costello, and this is Breakfast on GB News.
So I'll share a secret with you this morning. I've been dancing and singing around the studio.
You
to
have.
Lionel Richie all night long, and the only reason is I saw it at the concert last night. Saw the royals get up and dancing.
Yeah, got everyone up and dancing, didn't
brilliant.
it?
I just thought it was actually quite different because you used to see the Queen at these events, and of course she was much older, and she would sort of sit down and just listen. They were all up on their feet. They were all on their feet, waving flags. Sophie Wessex was really moving.
Stole the show, I think.
Ooh.
It was like she had her own wind machine. It was all blowing in her hair, and yeah, she looked fabulous.
But I just thought it seemed like an invigorated, more youthful set of royals somehow. Just having a good time. I really enjoyed it.
And wonderful seeing the children as well, Princess Charlotte and Prince George, both there. No, they knew the words to the songs, so I don't know whether their parents had just been playing them, the artists that were going to be at the concert. Yeah, we had little Princess Charlotte singing along to Katy Perry. Very, very sweet. Those are definitely my highlights. But it was wonderful, wasn't it? I mean, everything. Windsor Castle looked fantastic. The stage looked brilliant. The band.
Yes, the bands, the military band are fantastic. Yes. I'm a bit cynical about these sort of concerts. I often wonder if they're just a bit sort of put on. Do people really care? It really worked last night. I thought it was fantastic. But it's not over yet, as we said yesterday, because there's much more to do, actually, to mark this coronation. Millions will continue to do that today by taking part in volunteering events as part of the bank holiday big help out.
Yes, and of course this all follows on from last night's coronation concert that saw Katy Perry take that and Lionel Richie take to the stage to celebrate King Charles.
Well, yesterday was also a day in which communities, and hopefully yours too, came together for lunches, street parties as well, and just all-out celebration. Paul Hawkins has all the details.
Drinking, toasting, eating, connecting. After the coronation came community. From Drumbo in Northern Ireland to Downing Street, coast to castle. Millions of people tucked into 50,000 big lunches across the country.
Lisa, can I give you something?
I'll have your bones as well, you know.
Hip hip, hooray! Hip hip, hooray!
In Windsor, there was a surprise visit. The Prince and Princess of Wales popping into a big lunch on the long walk. The evening saw 20,000 people pack into the grounds of Windsor Castle for a star-studded concert. And there were appearances from some members of the royal family.
Pa, we are all so proud of you. God save the King.
And for those who couldn't be there in person, video messages from the likes of Tom Cruise.
Your Majesty, you can be my wingman anytime.
The centrepiece of the concert, however, was the Lighting Up the Nation project. Projections, lasers and drone displays. Lighting up Windsor and the UK. A celebration fit for a king. Paul Hawkins, GB News.
Ah, lovely.
Oh, it was just wonderful, wasn't it? Absolutely brilliant. And good to see them let their hair down as well. It must have been so much stress the last week or so. Brilliant to see them enjoy themselves.
Well, we're joined by royal superfan Anita Atkinson and former newspaper editor Dawn Neeson here in the studio this morning. Good to see you both this morning. I've got to say, Anita, you look the part. What have you made of this weekend?
Oh, absolutely incredible. Probably the best weekend of my life.
Ah, what were the highlights for you? What were the standout moments?
Do you know what the highlight was? Was the volume of the crowds.
Yeah.
The volume. I could not believe it. I've been to loads of royal events, and last year, the Queen's funeral, I'd never seen as many people, but this eclipsed it completely. You know, after everything we'd been reading and heard, that nobody was interested, 70% of the population weren't going, well, the people spoke.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Dawn, what did you make of it all?
I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was very positive. I think in a constant, where we seem to be constantly doing down this country, you know, it's a bad, mad, sad place to be. I thought it was a very positive message to send out across the world that Britain is open for business. We can do it. I mean, you know, as Anita said, we do this thing so well.
And it was emotional as well, wasn't it?
It was incredibly emotional, and you know, I'm not a super fan like Anita here, obviously, but I just found watching bits of it, and it's like, and the bit for me, obviously, so soon after the Queen's funeral, and you've got to remember we're talking about a family as well as the royals here, but Charles's face when he was sitting in the Abbey, he must have been thinking that my mum. He must have been thinking about his mum, and I think you know, if you've got a family and you love your family, you can't avoid that emotion, can you? So I thought it was very emotional as well, regardless of which side of the fence you're sitting on with the Royalist-Republican argument, which is starting to get on my nerves slightly.
Yes, I don't care about that anymore.
Anita, you were on the Mall, weren't you? Did you camp out?
Yeah,
I got that right. And how was that for you? How long were you there?
It was very wet, actually, in the end.
Well, yes.
No, we went down on the Wednesday, me daughter and my eldest daughter with 3 granddaughters, and we put the tent up on Wednesday, but I was dashing about here, there and everywhere, and they were in it. I had an old school friend that came down from home to mind me tent because I was keeping the space for all of the others that were coming down from County Durham. You know, people work, the kids were at school, so they had to wait until the Friday, but we had the space and we had such a good time.
Why, Anita? Why the royals? Why the obsession?
Oh, that goes back to us being a little girl. It was my mum used to have memorabilia in the china cabinet from the 1930s. So I think it was her that you know, drew us in with the stories that she told about the 1935 Silver Jubilee and things. But yeah, I've just been like that the whole of my life. But the reason I was here is because I wanted to give physical support to the King, so he could see that we support him.
Yeah.
And he did look moved by that. I mean, when you look at the footage of him on the balcony, it does look as though he seems so grateful for the crowds that came out.
Yeah.
What do you make of King Charles?
Oh, I can't wait for this new Carolean era. You know, I mean, I could have waited a lot longer because I, you know, hugely admired the Queen. Yeah, but he's a good man. You know, at the centre of it all, he's a man who cares. And not just about his people, but about the planet as well. So you've got a good man, a caring man. That'll do me.
I thought it was quite interesting. I mean, the 2 moments which have really struck me, Dawn, in this have involved William, actually.
Yes.
I mean, there was the pledge and the kiss at the coronation itself. But I have to be honest, I was in bed watching the concert last night. I welled up a little bit at William's speech. I did. Yeah. I surprised myself.
It was the highlight of the concert last night, obviously, at Windsor. You know, you had some great acts performing. I thought Katy Perry did particularly well. She looked just stunning. Slightly like a Quality Street in that dress, but it was... and the crowds were there. It was... The highlight, I think, for me as well, Stephen, was when William got up on that stage and made that speech, saying that, you know, the Queen would be proud. And I think that just nailed it. I think that was probably one of the most emotional parts of the whole weekend, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And it was then great to flash to the family sitting in the stands and see Kate's face.
Oh, look, now look at that. There's Sophie Wessex.
Oh, my God.
That was my highlight.
What a mover.
I mean, I wasn't that, I tell you what, Anita, wasn't that nice? Because we didn't see it with the Queen, understandably so, but the fact that they were all up dancing, Charles waving his own flag and all that, I just loved that.
It was, I was even saying that to my family. I was saying this wouldn't have happened with the Queen.
No.
You know, we've had concerts, but not with the family.
Not like that.
Taking part like that. It was absolutely incredible. And my family were dancing on the sofa. My granddaughters were dancing, my daughter was dancing.
What did you make of the Prince of Wales's speech to his father?
Well, like Dawn said, it brought a lump to my throat when he got to the bit about his grandmother watching, and I thought, I firmly believe that.
Yeah.
He said everything he needed to say at that moment, didn't he? And it was very public approval, public support for his father, who we know he hasn't always had the easiest relationship with.
No, quite. I mean, you know, it's no secret that, you know, that they haven't always seen eye to eye, and I think obviously the whole issue with Harry has brought them closer together. So I think for him to stand on stage, he did it incredibly well. It must have been quite hard for him to do as well.
He seemed very relaxed, though, didn't he? I thought he did really well.
He did, yeah, he did seem very relaxed. I mean, considering some of the names that were on that stage as well. But I think one of the funniest bits was Prince Edward, who can... what's his new title now? I can't
Duke of Edinburgh.
Duke of Edinburgh. Duke of Edinburgh, sitting there with Kermit. And it's like, OK, and then... But little Charlotte laughing hilariously at Miss Piggy as well. I mean, and as Anita said, you wouldn't have got that with the Queen. And I think Charles was always pledged to bring in a new... down-to-earth monarchy as much as they can be, and I think with Sophie Bucci, what a mover as well.
Oh, she
dancing,
and
Miss Piggy and Kermit on the royal balcony, the coronation, you know, the party. Watching was just, you know, can you imagine the Queen with Kermit?
No. I do think that was... I tell you what struck me, though, it was after William's speech and we had the national anthem, the King stood up.
Yes, I know.
Now, that must be muscle memory, isn't it? He hears it, he thinks he has to stand.
Yes,
but I just thought, isn't that funny? I bet that never happens again.
Well, I would think that he would stand because, the Queen, everyone stands for the national anthem. But it was just... I was waiting. I was watching Camilla singing. He no longer sings.
No.
But where he did for his mother.
Yeah.
But it was great. I mean, Mike and Zara Tyndall, they were up dancing first. They were having such a good time.
The night before the actual coronation, they were out till 2 a.m. partying, Mike and Zara.
Were they?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Dirty stop
They
outs.
love it, don't they? They're party animals.
stop outs.
Anita, you picked up some memorabilia, didn't you? Because, of course, people want to remember this moment in history. And you've picked up some special mementos.
Well, I have. These the things I've brought in are the things that mostly that other people have given us there.
Yeah.
This week.
Lift it up to the camera here.
Right, well...
What's this one? Let's have a look.
Let's have a look. Well, here's a badge. It's a coronation badge. And I was given that by an American royalist. She comes every time to royal events, and I always meet up with her, Donna. And she had that waiting for us, so she'd bought that. When we were coming back from the coronation, we were... trying to find a bus because all the roads were closed.
Oh, yeah.
And a policewoman stopped because we had the granddaughters with us and she was giving badges away. And can I have a badge?
Yeah.
So a policewoman in the street gave this badge.
Lovely. What's the glossy brochure thing there?
This is the programme.
Oh, the actual official programme.
This is the programme that you could only buy there. And I had a message from a friend at home. I'd already bought one, but my daughter bought us one. And I had a message from a friend saying, can you get us one of those programmes? So I went to get it, put it in my bag, then it poured down.
Yeah.
So it's a bit damp, Christine, but it's coming back home. It's a bit damp.
Oh, lovely.
That's wonderful. Great picture on the front there.
It's beautiful.
So I have to say, I'm sorry about this, but I nicked this.
Oh, Anita.
Where'd you nick it from?
Let's celebrate for the King's... Oh, lovely.
Yeah, well, it was the supermarket. Well, he had loads, and I thought, you're going to throw them in the bin, so I might just have that one.
Oh, well, I'm sure they won't mind.
Because that is a very important piece of royal memorabilia. In 20, 30, 40 years' time, I might not be here, but that, you know, for me granddaughters who I'm leaving my collection to, that's a good piece of royal memorabilia because it's disposable.
Yeah.
And where is your collection, Anita? Have you got it at home?
Yeah, well, I live on a farm and I have it in an old dairy. So it's an old dairy barn and it completely fills it. And it overflowed into the old piggery where I've now got a royal library where I do my research.
Oh, right.
And 1,500 books, 3,500 newspapers and magazines, Dawn.
I'm well impressed. Just get the newspaper industry going single-handedly. Is your husband a fan?
No. Oh. No. In fact, what he did say was, can you get this rubbish out the house and you can have the old dairy? So that's how I come to get it, because he was sick of the house being full of stuff.
Oh, right. Oh, well. Never mind. It's loss.
I know.
It's loss, Anita. We might have to send a camera up your way to have a film of all
I was
this.
about to say, yeah.
Really good to see you, Anita. Thank you very much
Thanks
indeed.
for inviting us.
And we'll see you a little bit later on, Dawn. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, also today, the government has defended the police response to Coronation protests following complaints that officers went too far. 64 people were arrested, including those from the anti-monarchy group Republic and Just Stop Oil. Amnesty International's policing expert says the Metropolitan Police may have misused new powers granted by the Public Order Bill, but the force insists they acted in line with legislation.
The government says it's going to give £240 million to GP practices this year to improve primary care. So that money will be used to introduce online booking tools and upgrade telephone systems. It's meant to end the 8 a.m. scramble of us all having to ring surgeries trying to get a slot.
A bill calling for legally binding rules for companies carrying out remediation works is due to be tabled in Parliament. Conservative MP Tom Hunt proposed the bill after complaints from Ipswich Tower block residents about dangerous and disruptive conditions during works.
Oh, well, I'm exhausted after all that royal chat. It's been an exhausting weekend, but in a good way, hasn't it? In a good way. I feel absolutely shattered, but, you know, nicely shattered.
We are drained, but it's because it's been so exciting.
Yeah, it was fantastic down at the Palace. And got to say thank you for your company, because we had loads and loads and loads of you watching this weekend from the figures we've seen. So thank you very, very much indeed. But if you want excitement, it's not over yet, is it?
Much more coming, yes. We're going to be live from Liverpool as events for the Eurovision Song Contest kick off with a day dedicated to the music of Ukraine. This is Breakfast on GB News.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Jacob Rees-Mogg. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, Nana, stop arguing. I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment.
I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different. Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics, and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's 6:20. Good morning to you. Still to come on the programme today. The Calder Valley, setting for Happy Valley. It's not very happy there, is it?
Well, it looks beautiful.
But anyway, it's been revealed as the fastest growing area for small business in the UK. We'll find out why. It's 6:45.
At 7:20, we'll ask if the use of facial recognition technology during the Coronation weekend went too far.
And we'd love to hear from you, of course. Have you found? Let's talk Coronation.
Yes,
on
we're not
the,
over
on
it.
the views.
We're still in our red,
we
not
are
blue.
so not over it. GB Views at gbnews.uk. Let us know how you've got on this weekend. The government's announced plans to end what it calls the 8 a.m. scramble for a GP appointment as it promises £240 million of funding to overhaul primary care.
Well, the proposals include the introduction of new online booking tools and the training of 6,500 receptionists.
Let's talk to the political correspondent at The Spectator, James Heal, who's here. Good to see you this morning.
Good to see you.
Well, look, there's a big question as to whether this will work, but I, like most people, I imagine, breathe a sigh of relief that something's being done to tackle it.
Well, quite. I mean, on a Monday morning like this, normally, a typical GP surgery of about 10,000 people will get about 100 calls in the morning. Some of those calls aren't actually supposed to be for the GP services, so this is about trying to upgrade the systems where they redirect those calls and really better use the manpower within the NHS and GP systems to try and get those waiting lists down and make a bit of a backlog in the healthcare system, make a better dent in that.
What do you make of this, then? Is this the way to go about it? 6,500 new receptionists. I mean, lots of people at home will be thinking, we need 6,500 new doctors.
I think it's a good start, clearly. I think that you basically have, I think, about 18 months until an election. There's not much in terms of resources or things that the government can really do. It'll be transformative overnight in terms of the big NHS stuff. You know, you're not going to get new doctors in 18 months or so. So this is about really trying to use the existing resources and get the best out of them. We've seen in recent years ministers talk about things like trying to replace fax machines within the NHS with better systems. And this is really something that all parties are doing. So Labour are talking about how we can try and get, pharmacists more into the NHS to deliver services. And this is about trying to use the technical stuff so we have people in GP surgeries using better things.
Yeah, pharmacists, I can understand. What worries me slightly about this training for these receptionists is that it's meant to make them almost triage you on the phone a little bit. I've got to say, I don't want to tell a receptionist why I'm ringing, why I want to see the doctor.
I think in that case, then there'll be obviously ways in which you can, go around that, I think. But this
no offence if you're a receptionist.
No, of course. I think that there'll be ways in which, if you have those kind of privacy concerns, you certainly can discuss them one-on-one with the doctor and say, I want to insist on that. But there are other people who just simply, much more routine and mundane, and that's what this is trying to get around. The government think that they've got a decent enough record. They can talk about this. Steve Barclay was out saying that they've got 10% down on GP appointments from pre-pandemic. And really, I think this is a way of trying to make a retail offer on the NHS, which has got so many problems, and the government needs to respond to those local election results last week.
There you go. Tony's been in touch. Hi, Tony. Says, he's not very positive about this. This is another stupid idea from an out-of-touch government. I've no problems being triaged by a doctor over the phone, but how is that possible online? And how many people are not online? Tens of thousands?
Well, quite. I mean, but this is obviously one simple way to try and make a dent in that. And I think we're going to see more details when it's published in full, tomorrow, after the bank holiday Monday. But this is obviously something that I think all parties would sort of get behind as a sort of first step. Obviously, there are huge issues facing the NHS, 7.2 million in that backlog, the highest ever, and with the highest ever dissatisfaction of GP services. I think, this will be something that some people can get behind. Clearly, it's not enough, but I think it's a good start.
And, I mean, the Prime Minister is going to be keen to show that he's trying to cut back on NHS waiting lists. Of course, that's one of his 5 promises, isn't it?
Yeah, of course. And I think that, it's something that in the local elections we saw a lot of. Labour were able to talk about the NHS. I think that and cost of living kind of combined together. So this is about trying to say, OK, look, guys, the opposition can cut from the sidelines, but we can actually deliver on these things. We know GP services is the first way in which people will come into contact with the NHS and health problems. So they want to be able to kind of get a decent response to that and, try and get on with the rest of their days and not sort of bottle up the services in the GP surgeries.
Yeah, oh, well, it's going to be interesting to see how this pans out. looking in other matters, we're dealing with Hong Kong again, which is interesting, isn't it? Because we've got a ministerial visit to try and build business ties again. First time since the sort of China crackdown. It's a very complicated territory now. Is this going to go down well, sort of rekindling relationships? Because not just with Hong Kong, but ultimately with China as well. It's not necessarily going to be seen as a positive move by a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, I deal with both camps in terms of the government side, which is about sort of rapprochement and sort of engagement with China, and the sceptic side. And I think there's a bit of fault on both sides here. I think the sceptics need to set out a kind of alternative to dealing with China in a strategic sense. China is a world power, it's integrating the Western economy. How are we going to deal with that? And on the government side I think that also they often talk a good game in terms of scepticism, but they also then don't back it up with actions. You know, there is a failure to deliver on certain things like the so-called secret police stations, on the Confucius Institutes, on, you know, how we're going to approach Xinjiang and human rights abuses. So I do think there is a real divide in the Tory party right now, and it'll be interesting to see if the rebels and the kind of sceptics on this can kind of actually form any kind of, parliamentary movement as they did under Boris Johnson to try and hold the government to account on this.
And this is only something that looks set to grow. I mean, there is a growing uncomfortableness with Rishi Sunak and President Xi, and what looks like could be a working relationship.
Yeah, and obviously over the weekend they invited, China chose as their man to send to London was the architect of the Hong Kong crackdown to the Coronation, which I think riled a lot of people, that specific choice. Now, the government will say, we have to invite China, we have diplomatic relations with China, and therefore it's up to them who they decide to send. But I do wonder, at a time when, as I say, we've had those very bad local election results last week, when there might be a bit of Tory dissatisfaction on the right of the party, China could become one of those flashpoint issues.
But is there an argument to say, you can't sort of change China, you can't try to influence China if you don't engage with China?
Yes, well, that will be one issue. That would be something that they make, and is it better to have some influence or no influence at all? I think that what the sceptics' argument would be is that we're not going to have any influence anyway, so why are we even dignifying that? We're debasing ourselves. That is their concern in this.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? James, really good to see you this morning. Thanks very much. We'll catch up with you a little bit later on. Look forward to that. Go and grab a coffee. Bring us one back in. Before you go, what did you make of the whole coronation weekend?
I really enjoyed it, yeah. I thought it was great, and I thought particularly the military procession after the coronation as well, which I really enjoyed. Great show of all the best of British.
Yeah, best of British. I love that as a turn of phrase.
Yeah. Do you know what? My favourite thing at the moment is asking people's highlights, because they're all different. Yeah. Everybody took something different from this weekend, and that's a very good example.
Yeah, just magical. That's
the word.
I was surprised when, after we'd finished the show on Saturday, and I went and we had a little area that, I hate to say it, but the public couldn't get to.
We had a great position.
We had a great position. And just stood there and watched the King and saw the King and Queen on the way to the Abbey, and he waved at me. And there was something about that I just found absolutely incredible, because I had a clear view. And just to say, I saw the King on the Coronation Day, it felt like the sort of thing we hear, older people talk about with the Queen, don't we? I saw the Queen on the Coronation Day, and that just felt special.
Oh,
weird, isn't it?
It's lovely. No, it's true. It was a privilege, wasn't it? And to be so close to it, and to be a part of history, I'm sure we all felt that. And we all felt so emotional as well. I'm surprised the amount of people we're talking to who's just saying that they cried at some point this weekend, whether that was Prince William kissing his father's cheek, or perhaps talking last night at their concert, or even seeing King Charles finally be crowned after so many years waiting as heir. It has been emotional for so many British people, and it's captured a lot of people by surprise, I think, that emotion. I think it's surprised you as well.
It's been lovely, and here's a nice picture on the front of the Daily Mail with a headline, "Pal, we're so proud of you." But there you go. Really, really nice. Just nice in waving at the crowd. Which camera are we on? There we go. Just think that's really, really lovely. Not a great picture from last night. And we're going to go through all the great pictures and the papers in just a couple of minutes with Chris Akabusi and Nabila Ramdani. This is GB News.
I joined GB News because I was sick and tired of not hearing my views being represented, not just mine, but so many people that I knew and spoke to.
I just couldn't get my voice out there. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't do anything. Whatever the narrative was, I kind of had to follow it.
GB News is there to provide a voice for those who have been ignored by the establishment media. We think different things, we've got a different style.
GB News is here to be optimistic and positive about the future.
It's real kind of dynamic and flowing, with the audience very much at the heart of it, like a big family.
Here at GB News, we talk about the things that matter to you.
Hearing the voices from right across our towns and cities, especially our towns.
All sides of the argument represented with a heavy dose of opinion.
We're on a mission here to make a difference.
And the GB News family really is here for you, and whatever time of day you can watch or listen.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
So Dubes & Co, we tackle the issues of the day with real robust debate, both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views. And often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, well, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is 2 new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, The People's Channel, Britain's watching.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
Oh, it's 6:31. This is Breakfast with Stephen and Ellie. And, you know, the papers are all about pictures. They have been all weekend, haven't they?
Wonderful pictures.
All about the pictures. It's lovely to see the pages, sort of full-page pictures on most of them. Have a look at this one with perhaps the quote of the night last night. Pa, we are so proud of you, as the Prince of Wales pays tribute to his dad at the concert last night. And just look at that smile and that wave from the King and the Queen. I just think that's really nice.
And you can imagine how much that meant to King Charles as well, to hear those words, and so publicly as well. The Express also highlights the Prince of Wales' emotional tribute to the Queen, the late Queen, saying he knows that she would be fondly keeping an eye on all of us.
Yeah, I thought that was a nice comment, actually. The Guardian. The Guardian. Why does this not surprise me? The Guardian is asking if the coronation was magic or just an empty conjuring trick. That's what we have to mention it. But
Must say, though, positives. Let's take the positives from this.
Yes.
That wonderful image, that Getty image. I can't remember the photographer right now. I think
Chris
his name was
something
Chris. Yeah, that wonderful image has finally been used on our front page. We thought we'd see that yesterday, and finally it's there. It's a wonderful one of the red arrows flying past over the heads of the new King and Queen.
For the Eye this morning, a new poll suggests the British public would be open for the King to get involved in politics. No. That's definitely what they shouldn't do. Not the point. It's not the point. We don't get involved in politics. That's the whole thing. It's why we can all enjoy them, and it's nothing to do with political affiliations.
And the late Queen wouldn't be too proud of that,
She wouldn't like that, no. She wouldn't. I don't think the King wants to do that.
No.
To be fair, he might have dabbled in the past, but I think he wants to stay clear of it now. Let's see what Olympian Chris Akabusi and journalist Nabila Ramdani make of all of this. Good morning to you both.
Morning.
Let's have a look at the Mail to start with. Nabila, should we? And, I mean, the Pa, we are all so proud of you, is getting everywhere, isn't it?
Yes, and as you said, you know, that's the line of last night's, really. And it was such a moving and tribute to his father, really. It's Prince William saying this in front of a crowd of some 20,000 people at the Windsor concert, which was an amazing concert, by the way. And Prince William is effectively endorsing his father. And that is not just very touching, but it's also, dare I say, very important constitutionally. I think it shows absolute unity amongst the royals who really matter, which is the King himself, and indeed the next in line, Prince William, to take over.
Yeah.
I think If you put that in the context of the fact that there has been a real crisis in the family in recent years, not least of all because of the terrible scandals caused by Prince Andrew and indeed Prince Harry, with Harry attacking the institution from within, which is quite unprecedented. And, you know, all these scandals have actually produced quite a bit of a challenge to the monarchy. And seeing Prince William and indeed the King, you know, these two figures being determined to overcome these challenges is actually something that is going to perhaps ensure, you know, the longevity of the monarchy.
Well, in a sense, Harry couldn't have chosen a worse time, could he? I mean, not that he knew it was coming, but then with the death of Her Majesty, and followed, obviously, by the new king and now the coronation, it is a time when, actually, everyone's come together for the king.
And I suspect, or one should hope, that Harry would have watched all this from his expat house 5,000 miles away from London and perhaps felt a pang of shame about, you know, his behaviour.
Well, he must have felt like he was missing out, right? Being on the third row.
Yeah, no, I don't think about. I wouldn't go as far as to think about Harry. It's not about Harry. I think
it is about continuity.
I think you were spot on in the beginning. I don't know why you brought in Harry. You're right. What I love with this is that you can see William has been brought up correctly. He understands the order of things. He's using his deference to say that you are the king. I fall in line with you in all of the tradition. I recognise and I honour you as my papa, but also as the king. And I love that very much. You know, we do ourselves down, or people try and do us down. I love the fact that we're following tradition, and that's that. We've got a new king, and the king, the heir apparent, is there saying, with my blessing, with my honour, and I follow you and I serve you.
I like the fact that his speech started by saying, Your Majesties.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's what I'm saying. That's exactly it, Stephen, is that you're seeing somebody who's most definitely in line with 800 years of tradition and saying, I'm not breaking the mould. Of course, we do know what's gone on with Harry, but he's saying, not me and not on my watch.
Yeah.
I'm subordinated to you. And to the traditions.
That's precisely the point. And this also ties in with William's also emotional tribute to the late Queen. Because obviously he not only was very fond of his grandmother, and there's no doubt that he loved her very much, but he was also making a statement about an acknowledgement about the history of the monarchy, that it is so important to the concept of the monarchy itself. You know, it shows continuity with the past, which is what the monarchy is all about. And when Prince Harry comes into the picture, he was effectively trying to destroy it from within. So that's a very important point. It's not a side point at all.
We need to leave Harry out of it. It's got nothing to do with Harry. You know, Harry
he created a challenge to the monarchy.
Yeah, no, look, Harry left. He's looked after his wife and his family. He's gone. It's nothing to do with Harry. This is a constitutional moment where the king gets his coronation moment, and you don't need to bring in Harry. Why would you pull it down?
Well, I tell you why he hasn't gone completely, because him and his wife continue to exploit and indeed abuse the link to the royal monarchy to make money, not least of all by selling private secrets and indeed grievances. And that's a worrying matter for the monarchy.
But what's that got to do with power? I'm proud of you. Harry, we don't need to talk about Harry in this moment. Harry's come, he did his bit. Yes, Dad, I see you, I honour you. He's gone back to his wife and his children's birthday. Harry's got nothing to do with this. This is the heir apparent saying in front of the whole world, this is my king, this is our country, this is how we do things around here. I'm serving in deference, and I will be the next person when the time comes. But right now, I'm subordinate to you. Nothing to do with Harry.
It shows the contrast in terms of loyalty to the institution.
OK, fair play.
Yeah,
but
yeah, definitely.
OK, let's have a look at the Mirror. No, I'll tell you what, because the show last night, and the Mirror's picked up on this, Chris, but do you know what, as I was saying before, sometimes with these concerts that have happened in the past, I've always been a bit like, oh, I don't really know. Last night, I don't know, there was something about it that was just spot on.
Yeah. So, Steve, I've got to be honest, I didn't actually pick up the concert. I was watching football. Sorry. West Ham were playing Man United. It's about relegation. West Ham won. I'll leave that one there. But having read the stuff in the Daily Mirror, I was really pleased again to see names that I recognise. I mean, I'm not up to date with all the modern guys, but, you know, take that, Lionel Richie, Tom Cruise, Joan Collins. This is brilliant stuff, you know. And I heard, you know, decked out in the Union Jack and stuff. So it's really, really good that, you know, that the entertainment world came together. But in the Mirror, the very last sort of paragraphs, which said people like Ed Sheeran, Elton John, Sir Paul McCartney didn't turn up, and Adele, they turned it down.
Yeah.
And I really don't understand that.
No, I don't.
I don't understand, you know...
Because Stella McCartney was there. She was made a speech.
What, Sir Paul McCartney?
Yeah.
Sir Paul...
The best of British, yeah.
Yeah. Sir Paul McCartney gets an invite and says, no, not for me, thanks.
Yeah.
I don't get that. I mean, I've got an MB. I didn't get an invite. No. If I got an invite, I wouldn't be watching West Ham.
No, you would have been there.
Yeah, I would have been there. No, I would have been there. And I just don't get this. You know, I'm very proud to be British. I've been 64 years in this globe. I'm proud to be British. I love this connects me with my past, with my history, and this, and I love the idea.
And I love it
that we
because you were a soldier as well, so you served the Queen.
Yeah, that's exactly. So like on Saturday, it really kicked off for me when I saw the military.
Oh, yeah.
When I saw their position, when I saw their timing, when I thought they were out there 6 hours in the rain, and yet bright as a button. Absolutely, and that connected me with everything that was going on, you know, and made me realise, this is my country. Yeah, this is the country that I was born in, I've grown up in, and I understand, and I was served, and I would have been happy to die for. This is it. I really understood that then. That's when it all kicked in for me. I can't say I was wall-to-wall Coronation this whole weekend, but that moment was phenomenal when I saw the military and the position. And also there was a young lad called Samuel Strachan, and when he came up to the King's chair and he said, Your Majesty, as children of the Kingdom of God, we welcome you in the name of the King of the Kings.
Yeah. Oh, that was terribly moving.
Oh, that was just, honestly, that was just such... I looked at that young lad. I mean, if I was his dad, I'd be so proud to be his dad. But how upright and firm and it didn't look like confident. It was just amazing. And then the king said, in his example, the King of Kings, I come to serve and not to be served. Wow. Yeah. And that again was one of those moments that really grabbed hold of me.
Oh, I can feel myself going.
Honestly, it was just honestly, Stephen. I was up with you, Stephen. I was absolutely in love with that moment. It was just like, wow. Yeah, this is what we do. We do it very, very well.
Yeah. Oh, I love
And
that.
one of the things that was really amazing and impressive about the concert last night is the mix between, you know, fantastic pop music, which Britain does brilliant, superbly. It's got great bands like the Rolling Stones, Take That, and the rest of it, and also bringing in the military bands from the imperial era, and this mix between old and new was just a superb combination. It was truly impressive, and that's again something that Britain does absolutely superbly.
I was watching actually through the Lionel Richie thing. I just thought watching the military bands and just thinking, bet you never thought you'd be sort of backing up Lionel Richie. Do you know what I mean?
What a Union Jack saying.
No, I mean, it was just phenomenal. Now, this disturbs me in the eye, Nabila.
Yeah.
The idea they've done this poll and it says Britain is now open to the idea of a political king. We don't want a political king.
Yes, and they've carried out all sorts of survey, so effectively the public apparently is increasingly receptive to the UK's monarch campaigning and becoming vocal on political issues. That's a new polling for the Eye that suggests that, especially amongst the younger section of the population. Under 25s are especially open to Charles III voicing his views publicly, in stark contrast to the Queen's strict neutrality for 70 years. Nonetheless, 46% of the public said the king should keep his views to himself, but 38% want him to speak out. And I think that's not only dangerous, but it's absurd.
Yeah.
Because constitutionally, the king is meant to support his government, to support his government's legislation. He can't have an opinion of his own that's going to be divisive. The whole point of the monarchy is to bring about stability, continuity, and bring people together. So, if anything, it should go the other way. And you could probably understand that when he was Prince of Wales, a man in his 70s, fair enough, he's entitled to have a view or two. But as a king, I think that's a very dangerous slope.
Chris, what do you think of this?
Well, I mean, I can't top Nabila. I mean, what you said is perfect. He needs to be neutral. He's titular. He's connected to our constitution. He's got to support the government of the day. He's a great ambassador. The idea that he'd be at odds with the government of the day is just beyond the pale.
Obviously, he can guide the Prime Minister. He meets with the Prime Minister regularly, and he's got wisdom and he can offer his view, but it doesn't mean that his views are right. And he certainly shouldn't interfere with, you know, the politics, the nitty-gritty of...
But he's got to represent the whole country.
Precisely.
Regardless of...
He's not an elected monarch, as we do have in France, in Macron, which is pretty much, you know, technically, constitutionally, he's the president, he's elected. But he has such a huge amount of powers to the extent that he can bypass Parliament, he can nominate his government. So we will end up in a situation in Britain where we literally have an elected monarch, which is ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. No, well, it won't happen. Now, Chris, can I ask you about this? Because it's doing the rounds on Twitter. I saw it yesterday. I hadn't realised that the woman involved was Adjoa Ando, who is an actress I admire immensely. She made these comments. I mean, she said the diversity of the ceremony in Westminster Abbey was offset by, she had a terribly white balcony appearance.
I don't know what she expected.
Well, it's a family, isn't it? They happen to be white.
Well, exactly. It's an Anglo-Saxon family. I mean, what do you expect? I mean, what you're looking for. So no, I mean, she's missed the mark there, I think. You know, as I said, well, I didn't say it yet, but the king went out of his way to show the multicultural nature of his nation. Baroness Amos had a leading role. Lady Fleur Benjamin.
Oh, I love Floella.
She had a leading role.
Floella.
And again, another one of those moments, there was a stunning soprano singer who sang, and that was just amazing. I was in awe of her. That was a black lady.
There's a gospel choir?
Yes, a gospel choir. So,
and all the lords from different backgrounds, Asian... You know,
So right in the heart of the main event, our king made sure that his nation was fully represented. Fast forward then to the balcony. This is my family. This is my family. This is my wife. These are my grandkids. This is my... He's a white guy.
With a white family.
With a white family.
It was
well, exactly. I mean, if your family were on the balcony,
it would be a black family.
You wouldn't say, well, it wasn't. There wasn't enough white people there.
Exactly. No. So I mean, I don't know where she. I mean, I think she's had a little wobble there.
I don't understand this absolute obsession with racialising everything.
Absolutely. I don't know.
It's just appalling. Just imagine the reverse comments. Somebody saying, "Oh, this family is too black." I mean, it would be just appalling, and it's absurd.
And Prince Harry is married to a black woman, and both of them were invited.
Who was invited
to be on the balcony.
No, never been a balcony. No, exactly that. Again, we mustn't make it about Harry, because this is exactly why she had to stay away. She stayed away because she didn't want to make it about him. He came. If he didn't come, he'd have been hammered. He did come, stayed in the background, left away, didn't make any... I'm not recording anything on the balcony. Look, none of that business. No. He's gone. He doesn't want... he doesn't want to take away from his dad's day. So, yes, if in different times, maybe Prince Meghan would have been there, but they're not different times. They've stepped away, and so the king, was there with his family, and they happen to be white.
Well, the bottom line is you can't criticise a family for their colour, for their skin colour. No. That's the bottom line.
I don't know what she was thinking. I don't. Let's just finish off with it. And I don't know where this happened. I didn't see it, but apparently the King's birthday toast to Archie, wherever you are
Yes, apparently this happened during the family lunch after the coronation. And dare I say, it's quite possible, you know, King Charles is a very decent man. He would have toasted to a 4-year-old boy. You know, it's a thoroughly nice thing to do. I think it would have been quite a different matter if he had toasted to Prince Harry's birthday from a constitutional point of view, not as a father. Because that would have meant that he supports somebody who's attacked the institution from within, and that puts the entire institution at risk. But you know, to toast a 4-year-old is a thoroughly decent thing to do.
No, because you get the impression, we had people saying this over the weekend, and I don't know if it's true, but it's the impression I get is that Charles is a kind man.
Yeah.
Do you think? I don't know if you've met him or...
No, well, I've met him a couple of times in official circumstances.
Yeah.
I can't say that I know the King, but I would be surprised if he's not a guy that loves his family, loves his children, and he loves his grandchildren, and his children will always remind him. And of course, every now and again you forget. I've got 4 grandchildren, and every now and then I'll say Ezra when I mean Asher, and I say Asher when I mean Rio, and then my daughter will say no, Papa, Papa, Papa. You get things wrong. You get things wrong. But yes, of course, I'm not surprised, and I'm pleased that he said, you know what? While we're all here, my grandson Archie. How are you, fella?
Yeah.
No, you wouldn't say it like that.
No, I get it. You never know.
But you never know. You know. I mean, you know, as you said, in a very important moment, Prince William was able to say, Pa. That tells me a lot. Public says, Pa. You know, my children call me Papa. I'm not Dad, I'm not Father, I'm Papa. He could have said Father, but he said Pa. And that tells me a lot about the warmth between William and his father. And the fact that his father, he may have his faults,
we all have our faults.
And we all have our faults, but he remembered his grandchildren present and those abroad. Well done, King.
Having said that, one wonders, you know, these grandchildren, what role are they going to play? Because they are effectively brought up by parents who hate the institution. So you wonder what the relationship is going to be with the royal family in future.
Well, yeah, but we don't know, do we? We don't know. I mean, we don't know when the cameras are not on whether Pa gets to see his I would hope he gets to see his grandchildren, all of them, from time, whether in America or whether they're in the UK. I would hope. But if it doesn't, c'est la vie. Many of us have got our families, and many of us have fractions of our families, and we see some and we see others less. That's life.
Yeah, it is. Nabila, Chris, thank you very much indeed.
Bless you.
And we'll catch you both a little bit later on. Well, I feel invigorated now. You're not bad, Akabusi. You should... I'll tell you what, you should think about doing some inspirational coaching.
Thank you, Stephen. I'm working at one.
Oh, dear. OK, let's have a look at what else is going on today. And the government has defended the police response to Coronation protests following complaints that officers went too far. 64 people were arrested, including those from the anti-monarchy group Republic and Just Stop Oil. Amnesty International's policing expert says the Metropolitan Police may have misused new powers granted by the Public Order Bill, but the force insists they acted in line with legislation.
The government says it's going to give £250 million to GP practices this year to improve primary care. It'll be used to introduce online booking tools and upgrade telephone systems. It should end, or is meant to end, the 8 a.m. scramble of all of us having to ring surgeries trying to get a slot.
A bill calling for legally binding rules for companies carrying out remediation works is due to be tabled in Parliament. Conservative MP Tom Hunt proposed the bill after complaints from Ipswich Tower Block residents about dangerous and disruptive conditions during works.
Now, I've never seen Happy Valley.
Well, you're missing out.
Everyone says it's very good, but it's all death and destruction and things, isn't it?
Oh, it's very good. It's very dark, but it's very good.
Very dark, but apparently it's been a huge boost for the Calder Valley, where it's all set or filmed. Anyway, let's talk to consumer and retail expert Kate Hardcastle, who joins us now. Morning, Kate. They've really capitalised on this, then.
Hey, I can't believe you've not seen it, Stephen. Look,
No,
I mean,
I
we're Northerners. Where's my kindred spirit here? As you probably can tell from this accent, originally in those dark days, I was born in the happiest of valleys, and I can tell you, it is the spirit of entrepreneurs there. There is, if you've not visited, a beautiful landscape, but it's a network of small towns and villages. And obviously, as rising costs like fuel costs have mounted, there's been much more reliance on using local and shopping local. Look at that landscape, isn't it gorgeous and glorious? So yes, we've got the idea that arts, just like TV programs, huge exhibits, etc., can really make a difference to a place. But this is also, and we can't take away from the fact that those independent businesses have rallied, they've supported each other and created the idea that there is enough to keep people local and as well attract people from local cities like Leeds and Manchester to come and live and frequent in these places too. So this is thrilling news to see that our hometowns, have been cited as that entrepreneurial spirit and that place to be, where often in the dark days, particularly when I was at school, we were told that there wasn't very much buoyant or opportunistic about the area I was brought up in.
But isn't that wonderful? Because as you say, Kate, I mean, it looks fantastic on the series. It looks beautiful. You can see why people would want to stay local and stay in that area. And it's positive news as well, isn't it, for those small and independent businesses who've had a really hard time the past few months, of course, for the cost of living crisis.
The cost of living impacts every single organisation. You're quite right, Ellie, from hospitality to retail, everyone's really felt it. So it's not a case that suddenly there's been a huge splurge in spend. This news shows the hard work that goes into those communities and trying to make that their service offer is just as good as anything to be found online or elsewhere. And that takes some doing. I think there's few factors here, having worked with a lot of those organisations in a supportive and give back capacity for many years. Number one is they support each other. The best way for independent businesses to survive is to have that collaborative nature where everyone who's complementary and not conflicting in the offer are working to show the united offer. Other things that really make a difference as well, and this is an appeal to councils and local governments everywhere, is making sure that facilities are accessible, to make sure that paving stones, etc., are sorted out. So if you've got a stroller or a wheelchair, you're able to access things, that there are public facilities like toilets in ease of use, and that things like parking aren't too expensive as well. But of course, if there's a TV programme or something from the arts that you can really use to your advantage, that's just what the Calder Valley have done. They've flown that flag incredibly well.
Brilliant stuff. Kate, thank you very much indeed. Good to see you this morning. The pictures of the Calder Valley look beautiful. I don't know what the weather's going to be like today. Here's your forecast.
Good morning, I'm Greg Dewhurst and welcome to your latest GB News weather. We've got rain spreading eastwards through the day, some really heavy showers following, particularly across Northern Ireland. Thundery downpours possible. And looking at the bigger picture, change is happening at the moment. The Atlantic weather systems are moving in, bringing heavy showers, longer spells of rain, and this continues for much of the week ahead as well. The temperatures in any sunshine not doing too bad, though sunshine quite limited today, particularly across England and Wales and Scotland. Outbreaks of rain pushing eastwards, could be heavy at times. Into the afternoon, we see the skies brighten across Northern Ireland. Some really heavy showers developing here, some hail, some thunder. Localised flooding is possible, so a Met Office warning in force here. Brighter skies eventually moving into Scotland too, but much of England and Wales staying cloudy with further outbreaks of rain. As a result, temperatures a little lower, generally the mid to high teens, perhaps close to 20 Celsius in the best of any sunnier breaks towards Northern Ireland. The showers should start to ease into the evening time, but still further rain pushing east across England and Wales into the early hours, but eventually it does start to become drier. We see some clear spells developing, but still over the hills some light rain and drizzle in places. Temperatures with all that cloud around generally holding up in double figures, but it does mean quite a grey start to Tuesday morning. Still some outbreaks of rain across the north and east of the UK. Some of the rain heavy at times across northeast Scotland, but it should brighten up through the morning into the afternoon, but that will trigger some heavy showers, particularly across eastern England. Also some more prolonged showers moving into the south and the west, some of these heavy and thundery. In between, plenty of sunny spells, and again temperatures lifting towards 20 Celsius. So with light winds in that sunshine, it won't feel too bad. Going forward, Wednesday through to Friday, it stays largely unsettled. There'll be showers, some longer spells of rain at times, and temperatures generally around average, but feeling fairly pleasant in any sunshine.
First and foremost, I'm a GB News fan, and I was before I was working here. Just love the fact that we're asking the questions that a lot of establishment media won't ask.
With a bit of a twist, we not only want to inform you, but we want to keep you entertained.
It's worth the drive because you get in and the team's all ready and waiting, they're itching to go, and it's a proper little family.
GB News is the People's Channel.
It's the audience that makes the programme sing.
We're giving our viewers and our listeners a voice. I see the thousands of your letters, tweets, emails, you name it, coming in.
Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it?
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you.
It's time for something different. It's time for GB News. I'm very patriotic. I believe in Britain. Our best days lie ahead.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Join us here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely
Right.
stunned.
I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m.
What's the scoop?
I'll be joined by two of the country's top comedians.
That's right.
As we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight.
We're going to get into trouble.
If it's a big story, we'll be covering it.
Spill some tea on him.
There we go.
But we'll also have some fun.
I wouldn't stick up a bank.
My father didn't love me. So anyway.
Headliners every night from 11 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning, it's 7 o'clock on Monday, the 8th of May. Today.
As my grandmother said when she was crowned, coronations are a declaration of our hopes for the future. And I know she's up there, fondly keeping an eye on us, and she'll be a very proud mother.
The love of a nation, the love of a son. The Prince of Wales pays tribute to the King at the Coronation concert last night. Roll your sleeves up after our weekend of fun. Today is the big royal help out, as we're all encouraged to get volunteering.
No more 8 a.m. misery on the phone. The Health Secretary promises to end the appointment chaos with new online booking tools.
And can we build new business ties with Hong Kong? The UK minister is heading there for the first time since China's crackdown on the territory. I shouldn't have read that bit. I do apologise.
And I should have, but I don't know what happened.
I just got carried away. Good morning. I do that sometimes because I'm Stephen Dixon.
And I'm Ellie Costello, and this is Breakfast on GB News.
See, I'm getting beside myself.
We're not over the weekend, that's what it is. We're still very excitable, and I'm sure lots of you are feeling the same way this morning. After your parties, your street parties, your big lunches, whatever you've been up to this weekend, we hope you had a fabulous time.
Can I just say thank you to all the people who watched or listened, but also to all of you who messaged as well, because the one thing that came through, which was actually very nice, was that you said what you enjoyed most was us being enthusiastic.
Yes.
Which was and joyous, which was just us having a good time.
Yeah.
Basically, and the fact that it was nice to think you were part of that, and we were all having a good time together. I know other channels were all very serious and all very historic and all the rest of it. We just had a good time. We just wanted to soak up the moment, and it was great.
And we were proud, weren't we? And we were so privileged as well to bring that to you. So thank you for sharing that with us and for all your lovely emails and comments. It did feel like we were all watching it together. We were all part of history together.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Lovely.
So thank you.
And I got a nice message last night on Instagram from a lady, Jane, who, I saw the picture I sent to you last night, who walked past us about 7:15 yesterday morning and took a picture and then sent it through on Instagram, which was very nice. And then some other people stopped and shouted at us to say hello, didn't they? And all that sort of stuff is just lovely because it's great when you come and say hello because we're all part of the GB News family.
And it was nice to get out, wasn't it, and to actually see that and to have people wave and say hello. So thank you so much, and do keep those views coming in. What did you make of the weekend? What were your highlights? Let us know. gbviews@gbnews.uk. What did you make of the concert last night as well?
Brilliant.
Terry says, whenever I look at Princess Charlotte, I can see her great-grandmother Elizabeth II in her face and in her mannerisms.
Oh.
Now, I see Princess Anne.
Do you?
Yes.
Oh, I love Princess
Who I
Anne.
love and who was a highlight this weekend.
There was, I tell you what, in the big lunch yesterday, there's a great shot again on Instagram, on the royal family's Instagram account.
You've been very busy on Instagram.
I have been. I've been looking away. And they've got all the royals out doing as they did yesterday at the big lunches, doing different things. And there's just a lovely one of Princess Anne just holding a teacup.
Love that.
And
so British.
Just having a cup of tea and laughing with someone, and at a street party, and I just thought, yeah, that's it. Cup of tea.
She's just great, isn't she? She's great, and that's what I see in Princess Charlotte. Not the teacup welding, but she keeps her brothers in line. You can see her in the carriage on the way back from the coronation. She's looking at them both, going, "See you both,
No
Louis,
nonsense.
I see you." Yeah, no nonsense. Same as Princess Anne.
Yeah.
But yes, she was an absolute delight last night, wasn't she? Dancing and singing away at the concert. It was wonderful.
It was great. It was great. Anyway, of course, it's not over, because if you're thinking, oh, I can relax today, not necessarily.
Not quite.
No, because millions of us will continue to mark the coronation today by taking part in volunteering events. It's part of the bank holiday Big Help Out.
Yes, and of course it follows on from last night's coronation concert that saw Katy Perry, Take That, and Lionel Richie take to the stage to celebrate King Charles.
Well, yesterday was also a day in which communities, as we said, came together for those lunches and street parties right across the country. Here's Paul Hawkins.
Drinking, toasting, eating, connecting. After the coronation came community. From Drumbo in Northern Ireland to Downing Street, coast to castle. Millions of people tucked into 50,000 big lunches across the country.
Lisa, can I give you something?
I have your bones as well, you know.
In Windsor, there was a surprise visit. The Prince and Princess of Wales popping into a big lunch on the long walk. The evening saw 20,000 people pack into the grounds of Windsor Castle for a star-studded concert. And there were appearances from some members of the royal family.
Pa, we are all so proud of you. God save the King.
And for those who couldn't be there in person, video messages from the likes of Tom Cruise.
Your Majesty, you can be my wingman anytime.
The centrepiece of the concert, however, was the Lighting Up the Nation project. Projections, lasers and drone displays. Lighting up Windsor and the UK. A celebration fit for a king. Paul Hawkins, GB News.
Oh, it's
His
just
flag.
wonderful, wasn't it? It was brilliant to see all those pictures. Well, we can head now to Windsor to our GB News royal correspondent, Cameron Walker, who isn't yet to have a day off. One more day to go, Cameron. Cameron, you lucky, lucky boy, you were there last night. Tell us all about the concert. What was it like?
I was, Ellie. I mean, it was just the most amazing atmosphere. Of course, you've got the 20,000 or so lucky ticket holders who won their tickets in a ballot. And they would you could just tell, even in the queue to get through security to get into the venue, you can just tell just how excited they were. And when we were all finally in the venue, the performances from the A-list stars, of course, the King and Queen processing in to the royal box as well with a fanfare. That's when the stadium really, the concert venue really erupted. But I think one of the highlights for me, and certainly I think the people on the ground who were watching, was Prince William's speech. And it was his tribute to his grandmother, actually. He said she would be fondly up there, keeping an eye on us, and she would be a proud mother. So clearly she's looking down on King Charles the day after he was crowned, and Prince William also said, "Pa, we are all so proud of you." He paid tribute to the King's 50 years of environmentalism, and that was a theme really which went right across the concert, including fashion designer Stella McCartney. She delivered a speech calling on everyone to do their bit for the planet. As you guys have mentioned, there was star-studded performances from the likes of Katy Perry, Lionel Richie and Take That. There was also a mashup, actually, which was really interesting, between the Royal Ballet and the Royal Shakespeare Company, set to the tune of the popular musical West Side Story, which was beautiful. But the drone display was exquisite as well. Modern-day fireworks, people are calling it, because it's more environmentally friendly, yes, but you can do a lot more with it and create those amazing shapes in the sky, such as a whale or a flower or a corgi, as we saw for the late Queen's Platinum Jubilee last year. King and Queen in the royal box with members of the royal family. No Prince Louis, he was seen as too young after his busy day at the coronation on Saturday. Prince Andrew and Fergie were there as well. Of course, Prince Andrew no longer a working member of the royal family, but a notable absence from Prince Harry. But today, of course, it's all about volunteering, the big help out, as it's being called. We're expecting the Prince and Princess of Wales to be volunteering at a scout hut somewhere in Berkshire. We understand the scout hut was built in the 1980s, and they're going to be clearing it up a bit and making it a bit more fit for purpose. Organisers are saying 6 million people around the country are actually expected to take part in volunteering, even creating their own community initiatives or helping out at an organisation such as the Scouts or National Trust or RNLI. Kate is actually joint president of the Scouts, which is why they're going to a scout hut. Princess Anne is doing an event in Gloucestershire. The the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh even, this will be cute, are going to be visiting some puppies at the Guide Dog Centre, and the Duke and Duchess of Gloucester are also going to be meeting volunteers at a street party. The Prime Minister and Sir Keir Starmer, leader of the opposition, are also expected to be doing some volunteering initiatives as well. Apologies for the big lorry going past me. But the King and Queen, as for them, it's been a busy week, hasn't it, for them? So we're not expected to see them in public today. However, we are told that they are wholly supportive of the big help out and volunteering across the country.
Look, I can't let you go, Cameron, without asking you about the dancing last night. The entire royal box, including the King and Queen, were dancing. And let's not forget Sophie Wessex, I shouldn't call her that, should I? The Duchess of Edinburgh, who was dancing to Lionel Richie like you wouldn't believe. I just thought that was a fantastic human moment, really. There she goes, look at that. You
like
go,
a
girl.
wind machine in her hair. Looks great.
What did you think, Cameron?
Absolutely. I love her outfit as well, that wonderful pinky red colour. It was brilliant. So all of the members of the royal family had flags in the box, and there was obviously some politicians in there as well. But I think it was a time for them to just let their hair down and enjoy it, because you can only imagine, really, can't you, the build-up and the stress that goes with putting on a coronation ceremony, knowing the eyes of the world are on you. So this was perhaps their opportunity to relax and really unwind and enjoy the celebrations with members of the public and the people and everybody watching on television at home. So you could tell that they were really, really enjoying themselves. And the children as well. You had Prince George, Princess Charlotte, the Wales's kids, but you also had Isla and Savannah, who are Zara Tindall's children, Peter Phillips's children, and Zara Tindall's children were there as well, as we believe. So it was just a big family occasion for everybody to enjoy.
Oh, it was fabulous, Cameron. And we must ask you, because we've been discussing it this morning, the King stood for the national anthem. Now, was he supposed to do that, or was that muscle memory where he's so used to standing for his late mother that he stood? He didn't sing, but he did stand for the national anthem.
Yeah, interesting one. I'm trying to remember back if the late Queen Elizabeth II would stand up for the national anthem. As you said, Ellie, the King did not sing it. He wouldn't, because everybody's singing about him. But I suppose it might well be muscle memory. It's probably still relatively new to him that he doesn't have to sing the national anthem. Of course, he was the longest serving heir apparent before he ascended the throne. So perhaps it was his idea of just standing up and enjoying the moment and listening to everybody else sing the national anthem.
Well, it was wonderful. Cameron, thank you so much for bringing that to us live from Windsor. Really
Poor
was
Cameron
a
must be
fantastic
exhausted.
night. Yes, Cameron, you've done a stellar job. Thank you so much.
Well, he loves it, though.
He's a star, isn't he? Absolute star.
Just
Did
wonderful.
the Queen stand? We need to work that out.
I was just looking at that. No, I don't think she did.
No, I don't remember
think she
her
did.
ever standing, but was that her age?
No, I think it's just a thing. I just don't think the monarchs, because people are saluting you, aren't they? So I think you just sit and take it in. So I think he did it by mistake. But I think it was quite a nice mistake.
And if he did, that's quite nice, isn't it? It's humble. What we're talking about this weekend, he's humble, isn't he?
Humble man, apparently.
Apparently. Let us know what you think
there
about
you
that,
go.
or anything that Cameron was talking about there. Wrapping up the weekend's events, gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Now, on to other matters this morning. They may bring a smile to your face because the government's announced plans to end that 8 a.m. scramble for GP appointments. Oh, you're like madness having to get on the phone and being in a perpetual queue.
Stressful, isn't it?
Oh, it's awful. Anyway, it's promising. Whether this will be enough, I don't know. £240 million of funding to overhaul primary care.
Yes, the proposals include the introduction of new online booking tools and the training of 6,500 receptionists.
Let's talk to the political correspondent at The Spectator, James Heal, who's here. Morning, James.
Morning.
Is this going to work, do we think?
I think it can start making an impact on things. I mean, look, there's a big debate in the NHS going on at the moment right now, I think, around health policy, which is about who does the NHS and the health service really serve? Consumer interests or producer interests? Labour have really tried to pick up the mantle on this, on NHS reform, and try to make it about saying, West Region saying it shouldn't be about sort of doctors and the British Medical Association. It should be about how people are getting, taxpayers are getting outcome from their systems. And I think this is the government's chance to respond on this by saying, look, this is the first point of contact for many people with our health care system. It's obviously really important in terms of trying to make an impact on those NHS waiting lists. So let's try and seize the mantle on this and end the irritation of the 8 a.m. Monday morning scramble.
I want to share this view that we just had in on email from Keith. Good morning to you, Keith. It says, doesn't matter how many receptionists or booking systems are included, go to any GP surgery about 11 o'clock in the morning and you will see very little in the way of patients due to the amount of GPs that are carrying out private appointments. So isn't this also a question of who do GPs really serve?
Yeah, quite. I think it's a system of how do we allocate the resources we have in the system better and making the most out of them. So on a technical level, obviously, training with skills will help try to avoid those bottlenecks. But there will be questions as well around the future of GPs as well. We have seen what seems to be the early signs of a sort of brain drain as well for junior doctors and leaving to other countries as well. So I suspect the NHS reform is going to be a huge question, not least because of demographic changes throughout the rest of this decade. But I just don't think anything's going to happen in the short to medium term this side of an election.
Look, talking of all things political, we have now, what would you call it, an envoy? A UK minister heading to Hong Kong for the first time since the sort of China crackdown. This move to build new business relationships with Hong Kong and ultimately China through all of this. It's important financially, isn't it, economically, but it's going to be difficult politically, isn't it?
Yes, it will be very difficult. I mean, the problem is because China is so, engaged in so many different areas. Obviously, there's the financial aspect, the businesses, etc. There's also the strategic. How does this line up, for instance, with what the UK is trying to do in Ukraine and support our Ukrainian allies there? China's trying to get a sort of role as a peace negotiator there. Other things like sport, other things like culture, etc. So really, I think the government are trying to walk a difficult line on this. They're trying to have some kind of relations in terms of the business sense, but obviously no one wants to kind of condone the politics of it. I think Rishi Sunak, obviously, so much of what he does is through the prism of Tory party management. We've seen already some reports this morning about people like Sri and Duncan Smith quite annoyed about this and saying, why are we trying to, debase and humiliate ourselves before China? I think it's merely the continuation of things we've seen before, though, with James Cleverly in his Mansion House speech talking about China and trying to have some kind of relations with them after the real sort of low point of the Liz Truss era.
And people are concerned about that, what looks like a growing relationship between Rishi Sunak and President Xi. I've got an email in from Anna who says we should not be trading with China. By trading with them, we're helping them to economically change the world order. This needs to stop. I mean, for many people, the relationship is frankly uncomfortable.
That is an argument, of course. I think the other thing which is at the back of everyone's minds is Taiwan and what the future is there. And I think there's sort of real echoes and parallels with what happened in Russia's invasion of Ukraine with Taiwan as well, and some of the military exercises that China's been doing there. And clearly, I think every, British politicians, want to stand with, Taiwan on this, and their hearts are there. But it's about how do you also negotiate with that, that great world power, which is China. And this is something that's going to be a continued debate. The question I always, put the government is why are they not articulating this better? It always seems this sort of embarrassed kind of shuffling response to, having some kind of engagement. Well, they need to sort of ground it in a strategic sense and really lay that out better, I think, than what we've seen before.
OK. James, good to see you. Thank you
Great
very much.
to see you. Thank you very much.
Now, also today, the government has defended the police response to Coronation protests following complaints that officers went too far. 64 people were arrested, including from the anti-monarchy group Republic and Just Stop Oil. Amnesty International's policing expert says the Met Police may have misused new powers granted by the Public Order Bill. The force says they acted in line with legislation.
The government says it will give £240 million to GP practices this year to improve primary care. The money will be used to introduce online booking tools and upgrade telephone systems. The aim is to end the so-called 8 a.m. scramble of patients ringing surgeries for a slot.
Now, there's been a lot of controversy about having cladding removed and replaced in buildings, of course, like these, and a bill calling for legally binding rules for companies carrying out that remediation work is due to be tabled in Parliament. A Conservative MP has proposed the bill after complaints from an Ipswich tower block about dangerous and disruptive conditions during the work. Now, I've just been looking at a few videos, and actually one from 2012, and the Queen did stand during the national anthem. So there you go. So maybe it is a thing.
Maybe it is an age thing where she was sitting down for the national anthem. Interesting.
But I just sort of think you should sit down for it if it's being sung to you.
It's like happy birthday, isn't it?
I wouldn't get up. Did you know that the King can now burn his passport, cut up his driving licence, and all that? Don't need them as King.
Do you not?
No.
You just hop on a flight.
You don't need them. And also, of course, you can't be prosecuted for anything.
Wow.
Because it's the Crown versus, so you can't prosecute yourself.
Well, that's quite good, isn't it?
So you can actually,
got some great privileges there.
I'm not saying he would, but he's not going to go around stealing out of the sweet shop in Windsor or whatever. But apparently you can't be prosecuted for anything.
I didn't know that. Have you been doing some fact hunting? What have you been reading?
Well, I've been listening to my husband telling me all the facts.
Oh, that's very sweet. Very sweet. I didn't know that.
No. There you go.
Yeah, every day's a school day.
Isn't it just?
Yeah.
Now, we're going to ask if the use of facial recognition technology on protesters, is it a step too far or really a necessary precaution? This is GB News.
I joined GB News because I was sick and tired of not hearing my views being represented, not just mine, but so many people that I knew and spoke to.
I just couldn't get my voice out there. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't do anything. Whatever the narrative was, I kind of had to follow it.
GB News is there to provide a voice for those who have been ignored by the establishment media. We think different things, we've got a different style.
GB News is here to be optimistic and positive about the future.
It's real kind of dynamic and flowing, with the audience very much at the heart of it, like a big family.
Here at GB News, we talk about the things that matter to you.
Hearing the voices from right across our towns and cities, especially our towns.
All sides of the argument represented with a heavy dose of opinion.
We're on a mission here to make a difference.
And the GB News family really is here for you, and whatever time of day you can watch or listen.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned.
I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Start the day with GB News.
We catch up on all the big stories you didn't hear the night before.
And take a look at what the world's talking about this morning. That's right, Monday to Thursdays from 6 o'clock. It's Breakfast with Eamonn and Isabel.
Straight after breakfast, join us, Bev Turner and Andrew Pearce. We're going to take you through till noon.
We'll be tackling the big topics of the day, including the things that the other channels just won't talk about. If it's happening here. Wake up to mornings on GB News. The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
New to GB News is the Saturday 5.
Join us every Saturday from 8 p.m. as we debate the week's stories.
Right, folks, that was a spicy one, wasn't it?
With us four, plus a special guest.
Sometimes she has to stick her foot in it. Sometimes she has to say things as they are.
Sometimes I think we should keep the refugees and send the pensioners to Rwanda. Then we'd be in a much better state.
Well, Benjamin, that is
The Saturday 5. Saturday nights from 8.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it. So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics, and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m. Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every Sunday from 11. Join Michael Portillo.
There'll be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back, 7:25. Still to come on the programme for you this morning. Oh, it's me. Sorry, I do apologise. I forgot to give you any words at that point.
It's fine. It's because we're used to it. We've been at Buckingham Palace where we've had somebody doing the autocue, and now you've got to get back to doing it. Sorry.
I just totally forgot that. I wondered why I wasn't moving.
I was like, Yes, now, at 7:45, after Penny Mordaunt went viral for her sword-carrying technique at the Coronation, stole the show for many people, I think, we'll find out about the workout routine that she used to build that upper body strength.
And at 8:45, we get Labour's response to the government's plans to overhaul the system of booking a GP appointment.
And remember, you can join in any of our discussions this morning by emailing gbviews@gbnews.uk, or you can tweet us at gbnews. Now, during the course of the coronation, 38 Chinese-made CCTV cameras were reportedly used to monitor the crowds using facial recognition technology.
Why do we care that they were Chinese-made? I don't know. I don't really know why that's an issue. But now, is the use of this sort of technology a violation of our rights to privacy?
Well, this morning we're joined by Police Commissioner Steve Turner, who believes that facial recognition is essential to keep our streets safe, as well as human rights activist Peter Tatchell, who participated in the Republic protest in London on Saturday. Well, Peter, let's start with you. Good morning to both of you. Peter, is this spying? Is this an invasion of our privacy?
Yes.
Did you say an invasion of our privacy? Or is this keeping us safe from threats?
Well, of course, we live in a democracy, and in a democracy, citizens should have a right to be free from state surveillance, unless there is compelling justification for that intrusion. And what the police did on Saturday was subject to a crowd of law-abiding, peaceful protesters to not only facial recognition technology, but also to mass photographing so that our images, our faces can be put into a police database. We were not committing any crime. We were peacefully protesting in accordance with the law, with the police's prior approval. The police had approved the protest that took place in Trafalgar Square. So the question is, why should citizens participating in a peaceful, lawful protest that had been approved by the police, why were they subjected to this technology?
Well, is that not a fair question, Steve? Is it not an invasion of privacy of law-abiding citizens?
I don't think it is. I think when you look at an event of the magnitude of the Coronation and the hundreds of thousands of people that were lining the streets, we had over 100 heads of state there, then personally, I want our police force to do everything they possibly can to make sure people are safe. And it's just wrong to say that's an invasion of privacy when it's all about keeping the public safe.
Peter, what do you say to that? I mean, is this the only way to stay across the crowds when it is an event of this magnitude?
Well, first of all, we were a long, long way away from any heads of state. Secondly, Republic, which campaigns for a democratically elected head of state, has a long history of peaceful, non-disruptive protest. And indeed, on Saturday, there were no incidents whatsoever. You know, we were perfectly peaceful and law-abiding, and even people who are pro the King commended us on our behaviour. There were individual police officers who expressed deep concern and anxiety that the leaders of Republic were preemptively arrested for merely possessing placards. That is an abuse of power. Possessing a placard is not a justification for arrest. And, you know, when it comes to the facial recognition technology, of course, if people participate in an event where it's known that there may be disruption or problems, then that's understandable. But Republic has a very long, proud history of entirely peaceful, lawful protest and has always cooperated with the police.
Yeah, but there's an argument here, Peter, isn't there? I mean, is part of the problem here that you're almost taking it a bit too personally? Yes, Republic has got a history of, you know, peaceful protests, and we allow and you know, should celebrate the fact we can protest peacefully in this country. But there are people who don't want to do that, and we know from past experience they infiltrate peaceful groups in order to provide a bit of cover and all the rest of it. That's what that technology is for, isn't it? It's for weeding out those people who are known to be troublemakers. And if you're not a troublemaker, if you're not someone with a history, a criminal history, then you've nothing to worry about, have you?
Well, there's no record of anybody infiltrating Republic's protest in order to cause disruption or criminal acts. There's no record of it whatsoever. So Republic should be dealt with on the basis of evidence. And the police approved this protest. In the weeks before, Republic negotiated with the police and secured their agreement for the protest to take place. So on those grounds, there is no justification for exceptional measures like the police used on Saturday.
Steve, what do you say to that? No justification for these measures?
I think Stephen's right. You're taking it very personally. There was a few hundred protesters from Republic who campaigned perfectly peacefully, perfectly correctly, and weren't arrested. So that demonstration went ahead. We're talking about facial recognition that was there to keep safe hundreds of thousands of people, and you're focusing on just a few hundred to do that, and that's wrong to conflate the two. I think what you're trying to do is you're trying to make an issue out of facial recognition by keeping it focused on just a few hundred people. There could have been terrorists in there. Yes, you may not have been anywhere near heads of state, but what if somebody in the crowd was getting towards those heads of state? We really don't know. And like I said, I think the vast majority of the public will be happy today that the police service in London did everything they possibly could to keep everybody there safe.
Peter?
Well, can I just say that if I was a police commander, I would make the calculated judgment that a terrorist or some other person doing bad things would not mix in with a protest. They would mix in amongst the general public. And that's where the facial recognition technology should be used if there was...
Which is exactly where it was used. It wasn't just used to single out protesters. It was used for everybody. 30-odd cameras weren't just scanning anybody in a yellow T-shirt. They were scanning the crowd for these things. So that you've just created your own argument. That is exactly why facial recognition should be used, because people do try and blend in with the crowd.
But, you know, the point was, as I was saying, if someone was going to do something bad, they wouldn't blend in with the protest group. They'd blend in with the general public. And that is not what the police did with regard to the protest. They couldn't scan the whole crowd of hundreds of thousands of people. They chose, among other things, to focus on a peaceful, lawful protest that they, the police, had approved. And that's my problem. That's where I think it's wrong.
But you're assuming their focus. We don't know where those camera recognition. We don't know how many faces that scanned. At the last time the facial recognition was used at a large event, it scanned somewhere in the region of 100,000 faces. On an event the scale of yesterday, I guess when the numbers come out, the Met Police would have scanned anywhere between 150 and 200,000 faces yesterday, and yet you're focusing on a few hundred.
Isn't there an argument here, Peter, to say, and you know, we don't want anything bad to happen. If something bad had happened and the police had not used technology which was available to them, I mean, you would be up in arms about it, wouldn't you?
Well, that's all if and maybe. I mean, the point is, in a free and democratic society, citizens have a right to go about their business, including the right to peacefully protest, without being subjected to state surveillance. We don't want to live in a Big Brother society where the state is monitoring everything we do or targeting people who are going about a peaceful, lawful protest. That is not compatible with democracy. It's what they do in Russia and China. It's not what we expect in Britain. And I think for people who saw how the police behaved on Saturday, this is exactly what I've experienced in Moscow. That's how the Moscow police treat protesters, and it's got no place in democratic Britain.
Final thoughts, Steve?
That's just not true. There was about 60 arrests out of hundreds of thousands of people at the biggest event on the world stage for over a decade. And it's just simply not true to say they were targeted in that way. The police use intelligence to decide which members of the crowd, which people they see, who they think may cause a problem. And to say everybody has a right to go about their business is exactly true. But that's what we've seen over the last few years, protesters doing. Stop Oil protesters were arrested on Saturday. And we've already seen how they stop ordinary law-abiding people going about their business. So peaceful protest is one thing, stopping other people going about their business is something else, and potentially stopping somebody enjoying the coronation that they've spent time and money to go along and see because they believe it's the right thing for this country is just wrong.
OK, Steve Turner,
Stop
Peter
Oil was not involved in the Republic protest.
Well, no.
I didn't say it was, but some of those, they were part of some of the arrests that were made on Saturday. So you can't just say all of the arrests were made from the Republic on Saturday.
We defend your right.
OK, look, we need to leave it there. Steve Turner, Peter Tatchell, thank you both very much indeed. Your thoughts on that, if you would, be interesting to know how you feel about all of this.
Yeah, gbviews@gbnews.uk. You're certainly going to have an opinion on that one. Stay with us. We're going to be going through the papers shortly with Chris Akabusi and Dawn Neeson.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Deebs & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Jacob Rees-Mogg. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, Nana, stop arguing. I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment. I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different. Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, the Member of Parliament for North East Somerset and a former government minister. For years, I've walked the corridors of power in both Westminster and the City of London. We need to have the arguments, the discussions on how we make it better.
Crop failures, famine, war, suffering on a scale completely unimaginable.
We are putting the cart before the horse. As Charles I said at the scaffold, he was the true defender of liberty.
Yeah, I've completely derailed the conversation.
Join me Monday to Thursday at 8 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News has its own late-night paper preview show, Headliners, where comedians take you through the next day's top news stories. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper, we've got it covered for you. Headliners, every night at 11 p.m. and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, on Sunday mornings from 9:30, taking the politicians to task and breaking out of SW1 to see how their decisions are affecting you across the UK. Bursting the Westminster bubble every Sunday morning, only on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain's watching.
You've probably seen politicians interviewed 1,000 times, but we do it differently. We find out who they really are, we don't shout, we chat, and hopefully we bring a bit of light, not just heat. Did you know Kate Moss?
Apparently.
Do you have a pair of jeans or a pair of jeans?
No, of course I don't. What would I do with them?
My friends are like, oh my God, what's she doing now?
Join me every Sunday at 6 for Gloria Meets, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
7:40 morning to you. It's really good to have you with us today. There's some fantastic pictures and comments in the papers today. Let's have a look at the Express for you, because it's just a lovely picture. We're all so proud of you, Granny 2. I don't think he actually said Granny. But a nice picture of the royal box there and everything. It was just, I thought, a really nice speech from the Prince of Wales last night.
Yeah, it really was. The Times leads with that as well. Pa, we are so proud of you. That's the Prince of Wales paying tribute to his father at the concert last night.
The Eye's got a bit of an odd one. It's on an own goal, and he said, it could be. It says, a poll says the British public would be open for the King to get involved in politics. This is nonsensical. Let's talk to Olympian Chris Akabusi and former editor of The Star, Dawn Neeson, who are here. Good morning, good morning, good morning.
Good morning.
Someone's already emailed. You're very popular, Chris. Mick, hi Mick, says Chris hit the nail on the head in what the coronation meant to him, confirming his support for and pride in his country and what the King wanted the coronation to portray to the nation.
Thank you very much, Mick. Yeah. Thank you very much.
There you go. Meanwhile, not everyone agrees with our perspective. The Times looking at the anti-royal protests.
Yeah. So, look, we've got limited police numbers. They're working on intelligence. This is such an historical, constitutional, significant event. And you can't have swampy sticking themselves to the floor so the carriage can't go by. You can't have the public fighting with people to get their view. Look, I do get it, and I can see the concerns that people have for our democracy, but we've got to think about the public safety, we've got to think about the historical moment, we've got to think about the global eyes that were on our country at that moment as our king was being coronated. You've got to accept that if the police have got intelligence that says that there are infiltrations, for example, people are going to be sending off alarms at inappropriate moments and sticking themselves to different facets of the arena, they had to nip it in the bud. They made the decision, they delivered on their action, it went smoothly. The reverse could have been, make no decision, it kicks off, and we'll be having a completely different discussion this morning.
I mean, there's reports, aren't there, in some of the papers about police having intelligence about rape alarms, and if they were thrown in front of the horses,
oh gosh, those horses! Could you imagine bolting?
Yeah.
But I mean, the police were damned if they did and damned if they didn't. I mean, we've all complained vociferously for the last sort of couple of years about the eco protesters and the police making them cups of tea and handing them the blankets and while they're gluing themselves to various bits of tarmac. So they had to be seen to be doing something. And I think they were in an incredibly difficult position as to how to react. But I think, Ellie, the rape alarm thing is a very interesting point as well, because there is a group called Night Stars volunteers who go out at night in London handing out rape alarms and drink spiking test kits to vulnerable women. And some of those people were arrested because they had the rape alarms on them. And there was this threat they were going to, as you say, spook the horses. And can you imagine if one of those horses had bolted into the crowd? It would have been absolutely devastating.
It's extremely difficult, but you've got to draw a line somewhere. You've got to make a decision under those circumstances.
Yes.
I mean, perhaps you would say that was not the day to be passing around rape alarms.
Well, absolutely.
I mean, I don't know. Is that a fair thing to say or not?
Probably,
I don't know.
Stephen, but the thing is there were also a lot of people out partying over the weekend as well, and so there would have been more vulnerable, not just women as well, but men obviously can have their drink spikes, etc., etc. So there would have been more people maybe more vulnerable.
I mean, the anti-monarchists, there are going to be many other occasions where they can do their thing, and I'm sure they won't be treated as they were today, or this weekend, but particularly on Saturday, there was only one show in town, and it needed to go ahead.
I think it's a good point you made there, Chris. It's a one-off thing. They couldn't take that risk, so I don't think it's going to be this heavy-handed.
It's interesting. Jeff's been in touch and says, in my view, this technology the facial recognition is an infringement, clear and simple. Gary says these cameras are there to keep us safe from the many people who want to do us harm. So it's
a lot of the time. I mean, especially at the coronation, time is of the essence, isn't it? The police do not have time to try and work out what your motives may be or why you could be there. If you recognise someone, they have perhaps a criminal record, they have intent. You're better to act and be decisive.
I saw a lip reader who was reading the King's lips, who was talking, and he was already anxious about the timing anyway. He was in his carriage, he was anxious about the timing. Oh, we're going to make it on time. He was talking to his wife, Queen Camilla, sorry. And so, again, it'd been fraught with disaster if actually it'd been stopped, diverted. I mean, all the position has gone into it. No, we couldn't miss that. I'm sorry.
No. Dawn, did you have a street party, a little nibble yesterday?
We did. I always have a little nibble at the weekend. No, we had sorry.
Naughty.
You bring out the worst in me, you said. No, but I mean, what I really liked in the papers today, and they've all got it, is the spreads of the lovely parties that people were having. Excuse me, lose my voice. The big lunch. And they're parties from all over the country, people wearing their Union Jack outfits, having the trestle tables up, with all the party food. And it was just a nice party atmosphere. And what I have found difficult to cope with this coronation is the fact that people have turned it into such a divisive thing, where, all right, you're a Republican or you're an arch royalist, but most of us are in the middle. Most of us just want to have a nice time at the weekend and leave the politics and
just
the hate
be British.
Just celebrate all the nice things. And I live in East London, and we had a lovely little party on the village green, and it was great because you had the local Bangladeshi community involved. Outside the pub, we had a load of sort of like West Ham fans, Chris, actually on the way to the game, and it was just a real community vibe going on. Everyone was together.
So I mean, we're not very far apart, Stephen. I mean, I didn't see it. I didn't see any of it. And actually, I was lamenting in my mind because I was born in 1958, and in the 60s, we always had May Day, and we had Morris dancing, and we had country dancing, and, very clear sort of British things, green sleeves and all that sort of stuff. And so I was expecting that this weekend.
But you
nothing.
didn't.
No.
Nowhere near. And I live in a lovely, leafy countryside, nothing in the Brick Hills, nothing in Woburn, nothing in my golf course.
A little bit of bunting.
Bunting, nothing.
But did you put any up?
No!
You see.
Well,
no, I know. But I mean, and this
I've got plaques outside the house and things.
No, I was telling myself off because, as I said, it only really kicked off for me Saturday when I when I saw the military.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I saw that little boy addressing the king, and all of a sudden, and actually felt really comforting, because, this is Britain. This is the United Kingdom. This is the country of my birth, of my heritage. All of a sudden, I got it. But actually, I've lost a lot of it. And I was really surprised. And I thought, because, 30 years ago, I was a soldier. 30 years ago, I was an athlete. You had been immersed in this stuff. My village is, like, when we moved into a lovely house down in Southampton. I'm sure down in Salisbury Green in Southampton, it'd have been ticker tape everywhere, because that's that sort of thing that we did. Certainly did it 30 years ago when we moved in there. I don't know whether the advancements in the last 20 years has dissipated all of that sort of stuff, but it wasn't happening in my locality today.
Well, I tell you what, next time there's a big do like that and I'm not working, garden party round at my...
You're on, Steve! You're on!
I don't drink, so I can drive you home afterwards.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much.
It's a deal. Sadly, we're out of time.
Oh, so
it's been short and sweet. But you know what? I know you picked some other stories as well, but I quite like the fact that we can still keep that celebration going.
I love it, and I really, as I said, I hate the divisiveness. It's just a time to come together, to have a party. And actually, there is nothing wrong with this country. We should be proud of our country.
Yes!
It's a great advert for this country. And there is nothing wrong with being patriotic.
No, yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. But to be patriotic, if we want to play a more active role, we may have to get our guns out.
Oh!
Not that I've got any. No.
OK.
You'll probably be all right with it.
No,
I was
going. I was thinking, no.
No, get the guns out, because Tory leader and leader of the House of Commons, Penny Mordaunt, of course, had a lot of limelight at the coronation ceremony on Saturday.
Yes, wearing a blue and gold ensemble, she impressed many with her sword-wielding strength. It was 4 foot long and weighed a whopping 8 pounds.
Yes, so she didn't just do it by accident, you know. No, it's not joking about all the workouts and getting her guns all prepared for that sort of thing. Let's talk to personal trainer and owner of Raw Fitness, Sarah Lindsay, who joins us now. Good morning to you. Oh, well, don't you make... Look how... You put us all to shame.
You're not quite sure where to go with that. Yeah.
No,
Sarah, you look amazing.
You look
That's what he's trying to say.
You look amazing, and you just put us all to shame. Yeah. I mean, to be fair, I was a bit surprised, but it's quite right, isn't it? Stop laughing, Akabusi. Sorry. It's quite right, isn't it, that she would have had to do a lot of training for what she had to do.
Well, you wouldn't want to take the risk, would you? It was such a huge stage and a real sort of monumental moment in history. If you didn't prepare for it and you didn't know if you were physically strong enough, I mean, we're all talking about it and it went swimmingly well. So imagine if it hadn't, if she was maybe, her muscles were trembling by the time she got to the king.
I mean, I think that's what many people were thinking. I mean, across the political spectrum, there were tweets saying, wow, her arm strength is incredible. Because 8 pounds, although you could probably do a few... what would you even call it, a rep with 8 pounds? But it would get heavy very, very quickly, wouldn't it, Sarah?
Well, there's a bit of endurance needed, I think. So, 8 pounds, 3.5 kilos. Most people would be able to lift it, but hold it for that amount of time. Then I think she would have needed to do a little bit of training just to be on the safe side.
Yeah, because it's holding it steady is the key thing, and especially, Sarah, when you're in a very nervous position, because it must have been terrifying. Frankly, it would be the last thing she'd want to worry about.
Yeah, of course. Like I said, she needed to prepare. She needed to make sure that she was ready for that. And it's one of the things that she could control. Anything could happen that day. So to make sure that she's definitely got that side of things taken care of, then she didn't have to worry about it on the day.
And lots of the reports are saying that she trained by doing press-ups and through weight training as well. And press-ups, I mean, I'm talking from experience here, are really difficult to do as a woman.
Yeah, so it takes a lot of upper body strength. So it's the strength through the main movers, which are your chest and triceps, but then also your core strength. Your core needs to be really strong to be able to hold that position. And then also, I think you need the confidence sometimes. People think they can't do a press-up, and then they don't really commit. So even though you think you're trying, you're not really going for it. So you've got to commit and you've got to put it in.
How much of all this is down to confidence, do you think? For all of us going to the gym or doing a bit of heavy lifting, how much confidence do we need?
I think it's really hard actually to walk into the gym for the first time and pick up those dumbbells. You know, everybody wants to weight train now. I used to have to convince people, but now everybody wants to weight train, but they're not always sure how. So to go in and pick up those dumbbells and not know what you're doing with them, or worried that you might hurt yourself, is a real thing, and I completely understand that. But really, it should be safe. It's a slow, controlled movement. You know, you're not throwing the dumbbells around. So it is much safer than I think people think that it's going to be.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, in these videos you sent through, you make it look very easy. I'm sure it's not. Really good to see you this morning, Sarah. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much.
So much for having me.
Our pleasure. Our pleasure. So, I mean, I thought she did a great job, actually.
She did. I think she was a stand-up moment for many people. I don't think many people were surprised her to have that much of a role and to do it so well and to look so wonderful doing it.
Lovely comment from Catherine this morning. It says, after watching the King's coronation and everything that went with it, I think it's time for us to start acknowledging how great our country is. It's time we focus on the good things our country does. I agree.
Yeah, and wasn't that on display on Saturday? And even indeed last night at the concert. Absolutely wonderful. Debbie says, I felt proud to be British. All the hard work of the police and all the military involved was outstanding. And of course, a special thanks to all of you at GB News, especially Stephen and Ellie.
Oh.
Your enthusiasm and interest in the coverage was amazing.
Yeah, it was so good to do. It was so good to do. And I just really felt like I've soaked up the atmosphere down there like a sponge. Absolutely lovely. Keep your thoughts coming through. We'll have more on last night's coronation concert and Prince William's moving tribute to his father. After a look at the weather.
Good morning, I'm Greg Dewhurst and welcome to your latest GB News weather. We've got rain spreading eastwards through the day, some really heavy showers following, particularly across Northern Ireland. Thundery downpours possible. And looking at the bigger picture, change is happening at the moment. The Atlantic weather systems are moving in, bringing heavy showers, longer spells of rain, and this continues for much of the week ahead as well. The temperatures in any sunshine not doing too bad, though sunshine quite limited today, particularly across England and Wales and Scotland. Outbreaks of rain pushing eastwards could be heavy at times. Into the afternoon, we see the skies brighten across Northern Ireland. Some really heavy showers developing here, some hail, some thunder. Localised flooding is possible, so a Met Office warning in force here. Brighter skies eventually moving into Scotland too, but much of England and Wales staying cloudy with further outbreaks of rain. As a result, temperatures a little lower, generally the mid to high teens, perhaps close to 20 Celsius in the best of any sunnier breaks towards Northern Ireland. The showers should start to ease into the evening time, but still further rain pushing east across England and Wales into the early hours, but eventually it does start to become drier. We see some clear spells developing, but still over the hills some light rain and drizzle in places. Temperatures with all that cloud around generally holding up in double figures, but it does mean quite a grey start to Tuesday morning. Still some outbreaks of rain across the north and east of the UK, some of the rain heavy at times across north-east Scotland, but it should brighten up through the morning into the afternoon, but that will trigger some heavy showers, particularly across eastern England. Also some more prolonged showers moving into the south and the west, some of these heavy and thundery. In between, plenty of sunny spells, and again temperatures lifting towards 20 Celsius. So with light winds in that sunshine, it won't feel too bad. Going forward, Wednesday through to Friday, it stays largely unsettled. There'll be showers, some longer spells of rain at times, and temperatures generally around average, but feeling fairly pleasant in any sunshine.
I joined GB News because I was sick and tired of not hearing my views being represented, not just mine, but so many people that I knew and spoke to.
I just couldn't get my voice out there. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't do anything. Whatever the narrative was, I kind of had to follow it.
GB News is there to provide a voice for those who have been ignored by the establishment media. We think different things, we've got a different style.
GB News is here to be optimistic and positive about the future.
It's real kind of dynamic and flowing, with the audience very much at the heart of it, like a big family.
Here at GB News, we talk about the things that matter to you.
Hearing the voices from right across our towns and cities, especially our towns.
All sides of the argument represented with a heavy dose of opinion.
We're on a mission here to make a difference.
And the GB News family really is here for you, and whatever time of day you can watch or listen.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel. Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates. Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed. So I guess they've always been quite woke. That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Start the day with GB News.
We catch up on all the big stories you didn't hear the night before.
And take a look at what the world's talking about this morning. That's right, Monday to Thursdays from 6 o'clock. It's Breakfast with Eamonn and Isabel.
Straight after breakfast, join us, Bev Turner and Andrew Pearce. We're going to take you through till noon.
We'll be tackling the big topics of the day, including the things that the other channels just won't talk about. If it's happening here. Wake up to mornings on GB News. The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
New to GB News is the Saturday 5.
Join us every Saturday from 8 p.m. as we debate the week's stories. Right, folks, that was a spicy one, wasn't it?
With us four, plus a special guest.
Sometimes she has to stick her foot in it. Sometimes she has to say things as they are.
Sometimes I think we should keep the refugees and send the pensioners to Rwanda. Then we'd be in a much better state.
Well, Benjamin, that is...
The Saturday 5. Saturday nights from 8. Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it. So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Join me, Patrick Christie's Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m. Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There'll be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. It's 8 o'clock on Monday, the 8th of May. Today.
As my grandmother said when she was crowned, coronations are a declaration of our hopes for the future. And I know she's up there, fondly keeping an eye on us, and she'll be a very proud mother.
The love of a nation, the love of a song. The Prince of Wales pays tribute to the King at the Coronation concert last night. But now roll your sleeves up after a weekend of fun. Today's the big royal help out, as we're all encouraged to get volunteering.
No more 8 a.m. misery on the phone. The Health Secretary promises to end the appointment chaos with new online booking tools. And can we build new business ties with Hong Kong? A UK minister is heading there for the first time since China's crackdown on the territory.
Good morning to you. I'm Stephen Dixon.
And I'm Ellie Costello, and this is Breakfast on GB News.
We're just basking.
That's a great word for how we're feeling today.
We're a bit giddy, aren't we?
Yeah.
Feel a little bit giddy after all this weekend. And I'm surprised. How about you? I am surprised at just how into it I have become. I knew I'd enjoy it.
Yeah, I feel like it was always there, yeah.
I didn't think I'd enjoy it this much or feel it in such a personal way.
Yeah. I think that surprised so many people is how personal it's felt to them and the pride and the emotion that comes with watching these things and feeling proud to be British. Like Chris said, sometimes you can forget that and then you see so many of the events of the weekend and it brings it all back and it's been there the whole time. Sharon says, what a fantastic weekend. This is something that the British are really good at and all of that was on display, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Whether it's our armed forces or our musicians, it's just been wonderful, hasn't it?
Pixie says it's been phenomenal and awe-inspiring to watch the coronation and the wonderful concert last night. Yeah, awe-inspiring. It was really. Just the way they lit up the castle during the performances, and the way the stage was lit and all the graphics and I just thought it was just really nicely done.
It was.
And the crowd just getting into... And there was little things like... There was a thing where they showed off the Prince's artwork, and they projected it onto the castle, whilst a girl who was only introduced as Lucy played a piano
that made
piece.
me cry.
Did you cry at that?
Burst into tears at that.
Because apparently there's a charity which Queen Camilla supports, which helps blind and partially sighted youngsters play musical instruments, and this Lucy was blind and was playing the piano. I mean, phenomenal talent. And just that, I just thought was really nice, because it was a way of saluting this incredible girl and saluting the work that Camilla does at the same time. And I just thought it was really nice.
Yeah, do you know what? I forgot about that. That was a highlight for me. I was
Yeah.
so emotional, and you're right, the amount of thought that had gone into it to include those charities and those wonderful causes that the King and Queen
I just wish we'd had Lucy's
support.
surname.
I know.
She
She was wonderful. If
great.
you watch anything this morning, alongside your Katy Perry and your Lionel Richie,
Yeah.
look at Lucy's performance as well, because that was awe-inspiring, to use that wonderful word. And Elaine's been in touch saying, absolutely fabulous concert last night, made even better because some, and in brackets, Elton John and Sir Paul McCartney, weren't there. Their day is past.
Well,
says Elaine.
if they were invited and didn't want to go, well, hard luck.
Do you know what, though? If I'm going to say anything, and it's not very positive, I know, but it
Oh,
was
go
a
on.
shame not to see some more great British talent there. Didn't really want to hear American accents. Sorry.
Didn't you?
That's a bad thing to say. Yeah, Katy Perry was just very American.
Well, yeah.
She was great. She sounded good, and Princess Charlotte was enjoying it. But it would be nice to hear British accents on the stage when you're celebrating the King and Queen.
Well,
controversial perhaps, but that's my.
You know, people like Adele didn't want to do it, did she?
Yes, like
I mean,
Adele
why
would be
not?
Great. Yeah.
Why wouldn't
Harry
you?
Styles reportedly said no. Ed Sheeran as well. Some great names. Sir Elton John. I mean, Sir Elton John would have been great.
He would have been fantastic. But what we don't know the ins and outs, though, do we? We don't know the ins and outs.
They've been busy.
Maybe it was just timings clash, yeah.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. So just don't know. But take that. Well, great. And I've got to say, although American accents, Lionel Richie brought the house down.
I will, yeah. But yeah. He's the exception to that
Let's
rule.
dig out that piece before we move on to, because we've got a full report, which we will show you. But before that, let's dig out that. Can we dig out that footage of the Duchess of Edinburgh dancing to Lionel Richie? The whole royal box was dancing, but everyone just sort of went, "What? Look at her go! There she goes.
The move.
There she goes."
Oh.
And I just thought that was, I don't know, that just did it for me.
Yeah,
There's
look, and Prince George and Princess Charlotte were even dancing and singing along. To be fair to him, he got everybody to their feet, didn't he? He really brought the party atmosphere last night. It was
Just
wonderful.
nice.
It was
Nice.
wonderful.
But anyway, the millions will continue to mark the coronation today, because it's not over yet, though it's perhaps a more serious turn, because it's the big help out is what they're calling it today, and encouraging. Apparently 6 million of us have already signed up to help with some volunteering work today.
Well, of course, it follows on from last night's coronation concert that saw Katy Perry take that and Lionel Richie take to the stage to celebrate King Charles.
But of course, yesterday was also a day in which communities right across the country came together for those lunches and street parties that members of the royal family attended as well. Here's Paul Hawkins.
Drinking, toasting, eating, connecting. After the coronation came community. From Drumbo in Northern Ireland to Downing Street, coast to castle. Millions of people tucked into 50,000 big lunches across the country.
Lisa, can I give you something? I have your bones as well, you know.
In Windsor, there was a surprise visit. The Prince and Princess of Wales popping into a big lunch on the long walk. The evening saw 20,000 people pack into the grounds of Windsor Castle for a star-studded concert. And there were appearances from some members of the royal family.
Pa, we are all so proud of you. God save the King.
And for those who couldn't be there in person, video messages from the likes of Tom Cruise.
Your Majesty, you can be my wingman anytime.
The centrepiece of the concert, however, was the Lighting Up the Nation project. Projections, lasers and drone displays. Lighting up Windsor and the UK. A celebration fit for a king. Paul Hawkins, GB News.
Oh,
Wonderful.
it was just wonderful, wasn't it? We can head over to Windsor now to our GB News royal correspondent, Cameron Walker, who I'm not even sure has slept yet. Have you, Cameron? It looked like the most wonderful night. Did you have a fabulous time? Because you were there.
I absolutely did, Ellie. Yes, I have not had that much sleep. I have slept a little bit, but it was absolutely worth it because it was such an amazing concert. We had the star-studded guests. We had the 20,000 lucky ticket holders who won their tickets in a ballot, and of course members of the royal family. And as you were discussing, the Duchess of Edinburgh certainly enjoyed Lionel Richie and some of the other performers dancing along in the royal box, as was everybody else. But following the concert, there was a bit of a surprise for the American audience because Katy Perry and Lionel Richie spoke to the American Idol staging from Windsor Castle following the concert, and there was a little surprise afterwards. So take a look.
And we're trying to figure out what can we do to bring something different to the show. If I would like to, Katie, I just want Kate, excuse me. I didn't.
Goodness.
Surprise, I have a surprise. Please.
Are you going to
doing this all night long? No, or not? Because I just wanted to check how long you'll be using this room for?
We have to give the room up right away.
I just wanted to check.
Thank you so much for coming.
No, but thank you so much for your brilliant performance. And
Thank
Katie,
you.
it was wonderful. It really was.
Are we making too much
A great treat to have you
noise?
both here.
Wait now, but we understand there's a party.
You've heard about that, have you?
Well, you're throwing the party right
Very well
next door.
informed. Oh, that's right. So had you not better take you to the party? But you're busy with all these other things.
Well, as soon as we finish, we're coming to the party.
We're coming to the party.
You think so? Well, thank you for stopping.
It. Bless you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's a great
We love you guys. Thank you. Thank you. And congratulations.
Oh, that's so nice, isn't it?
I mean, absolutely. For those of you listening on radio, that was the King and Queen surprising the American Idol audience by coming onto in the room where in Windsor Castle where Katy Perry and Lionel Richie were speaking and just thanking them for their wonderful performances. But the coronation celebrations do not stop there because today is all about the big help outs, the volunteering initiative. 6 million or so of us around the United Kingdom have already signed up to either do their own volunteering in local communities or help out an organisation such as the Scouts or the National Trust or something like that. And speaking of Scouts, the Prince and Princess of Wales are expected to be helping out at a Scouts hut somewhere in Berkshire. The Scout hut is understood was built in the 1980s and is in a bit of disrepair, so they're going to be getting their hands dirty on that. Princess of Wales is, of course, the joint president of the Scouts. We've also got the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh. They're expected to be helping out with guide dog puppy training at their headquarters there. The Duke and Duchess of Gloucester are meeting volunteers at a street party, and the Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and the leader of the opposition Sir Keir Starmer are also expected to be carrying out volunteering work. I think Keir Starmer is actually going to be taking calls for NHS volunteer responders. As for the King and Queen, it's been a long old week for them, so we're not expected to see them in public today. However, we are told that they're very much wholly supportive of the Big Help Out initiative.
Cameron, thank you. Apologise for blowing my nose during that. I thought my mic was down. There you go. Bit of hay fever. So I've got a bit of a sniffle.
Right.
Yeah, well, thank you. I'm glad.
Cameron,
Very
go and have
gracious
a
of
rest.
you.
Go and have a rest.
I'd love that clip of them on American Idol.
Yes.
I mean, just because it's just, I don't know, it's almost slightly uncomfortable in a way, but it's just the fact that they're prepared to do it. Man, the Queen,
nice, isn't it?
Yeah, the Queen did those things like with the James Bond stunt in 2012 and all that sort of thing.
And Paddington Bear.
And Paddington Bear, yeah. So I just think that's really nice. Fancy that.
Yeah. Do you know what I quite liked to see in that footage there was Queen Camilla, as we can call her now.
Yes.
She was touching Katy Perry. I just think it's nice to see that warmth and to see them want to have a little bit of fun as well.
Yeah.
Very nice. Let us know what you make of that clip. That was a nice surprise there from Cameron. gbnews@gbnews.uk.
Makes me smile. It's the smiling. My face is almost getting... It's like being at your wedding when you get tired of smiling. Ooh. It's it's not lovely. Lovely.
Do you know what? My cheeks hurt.
Do they?
Yeah, from smiling so much.
That's just because you work with me, darling.
It's true, actually. You should hear us in the breaks, honestly.
I don't know why
Have my
Catherine
head on the
Forster's
table.
laughing. What are you laughing at? It's
Honestly,
true,
we're
you
serious.
know.
I'm
watching you two, the pair of you.
It's a joy to work with me. I tell people that all the time. Anyway, Catherine Forster is here, as you can see, our political reporter, because the government's announced plans to end what it calls the 8 a.m. scramble for GP appointments. They're chucking a load of money at this, Catherine, aren't they? How's it going to work?
They are, 240 million, and they're really keen to get back on the front foot after those desperate election results. So, lots of new technology, online booking, improved phone systems. We've all been through the hell of the constant engaged tone, redialing at 8 o'clock to get through. So it will be these new systems. You won't have to redial. You'll get you're number 1 in the queue, you're number 3 in the queue. We'll call you back. So then you can put the phone down, go about your business, they will call you back. You'll get an urgent appointment on the day, they say, or if it's not urgent, within 2 weeks. They're training receptionists so that they can assess how urgent things are. I think there will be some concerns about that. But, of course, GPs are our first port of call, aren't they, into the NHS? Of course, there's huge backlogs, 7.2 million people waiting for treatment, huge shortage of doctors and the ongoing strike. So it's certainly something, and I think the government's hoping that they can show results on this at least before the general election, because, of course, the training of doctors takes many, many, many years.
Yes, and that's an interesting point, isn't it? Because many people will be watching and listening and saying 6,500 new receptionists, we need 6,500 new doctors, but this is something that can be done now. And another part of this is receptionists being retrained or adding additional training to be care negotiators so that they can kind of sort out where you need your care. Should it be at a pharmacist or does it actually need to be with a doctor?
But that means telling a receptionist what's wrong with you, which I don't like.
Not everybody is going to want to do that, and I'm sure if you don't want to, that you're not going to have to. But it's clearly something. But lots of people will say, well, this is just tinkering around the edges because you've still got nurses' strikes, potentially. You've still got junior doctors' strikes. The government are saying we're spending more than ever on the NHS. But, of course, there is a huge shortage of doctors, and Labour, as you would expect, are saying this is basically just tinkering around the edges because we need more doctors. This is going to do nothing to address those shortages. But certainly, if you don't have to wait at 8 o'clock, if you don't have to spend 30, 40 minutes constantly redialing, that's something, but a drop in the ocean, really, I suppose.
And for Rishi Sunak, I mean, you touched on it a little bit earlier, this is him hoping to bounce back from those dismal local election results. And, of course, he'd probably be quite grateful for the timing of the coronation as well, which seemed to be a good distraction, really, from those results.
I think the government will have been incredibly glad that the coronation was when it was, because the local elections are traditionally the first Thursday in May, which they were, but a very happy accident for them, because otherwise we've not talked that much, have we? Because we've all been in coronation mode, quite rightly, but 1,061 seats that they lost, that's beyond their sort of worst expectations. They'd been briefing 1,000 thinking, oh, well, maybe it'd be 600-700, we can put a good spin on it. There's no good spin that they can put on this. So clearly they need to get back on the front foot. They need to be seen to be delivering. It's all very well having these 5 priorities, but until they actually can show the results, show inflation coming down, show the waiting list coming down, show people crossing the channel, those numbers going down, are people going to come round to them?
What's your sense? Because we've been talking about, well, a general election in sort of spring next year was the sort of talk. I think it doesn't have to be until sort of early 2025 at the latest, does it? I think we're going to see it much later on, aren't we?
I don't know why they would go before next autumn, really. I mean, they could go to January 2025, but the weather's awful, and so maybe, you know, October time, because They need time, don't they, to get the cost of living crisis under control, to stop the strikes, to make people start to feel better off. And hopefully, I mean, many Tory MPs calling for this now, to be able to cut taxes. Why would you try to rush that through? So we don't know, but the feeling seems to be that it will be certainly later rather than sooner.
Did you get a break from politics this weekend and get all roiled out?
I did. I was off. I watched it on the telly, having tried to go to the Queen's funeral, which did not work well. Watched it on the telly, the best pictures.
Yeah.
The guys were fabulous. And then we had a street party yesterday. And the sun shone.
Fabulous.
So it was really nice.
Oh,
that's
fabulous.
what we like to hear.
Yeah.
Great stuff. Catherine, thank you very much.
Thank you, Catherine.
Now, Paul Coit is going to be here. It'll tell us how Manchester United slipped up in the race for the Champions League football. All the details very shortly. This is GB News.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Jacob Rees-Mogg. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, Nana, stop arguing. I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment. I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different.
Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, the Member of Parliament for North East Somerset and a former government minister. For years, I've walked the corridors of power in both Westminster and the City of London. We need to have the arguments, the discussions on how we make it better.
Crop failures, famine, war, suffering on a scale completely unimaginable.
We are putting the cart before the horse. As Charles I said at the scaffold, he was the true defender of liberty.
Yeah, I've completely derailed the conversation.
Join me Monday to Thursday at 8 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News has its own late-night paper preview show, Headliners, where comedians take you through the next day's top news stories. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper, we've got it covered for you. Headliners, every night at 11 p.m, and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, on Sunday mornings from 9:30, taking the politicians to task and breaking out of SW1 to see how their decisions are affecting you across the UK. Bursting the Westminster bubble every Sunday morning, only on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain's watching.
You've probably seen politicians interviewed 1,000 times, but we do it differently. We find out who they really are, we don't shout, we chat, and hopefully we bring a bit of light, not just heat. Did you know Kate Moss?
Apparently.
Do you have a pair of jeans or a pair of jeans?
No, of course I don't. What would I do with them?
My friends are like, oh my God, what's she doing now?
Join me every Sunday at 6 for Gloria Meets, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning, welcome back. You're watching Breakfast on GB News with Stephen and Ellie. Still lots to come on the programme. Yeah.
Oh, it's my turn. Sorry. At 9 o'clock, we're talking to Vanity Fair's royal editor, Katie Nicholl, to get her reflections on last night's Coronation concert. I mean, look at them all going in the royal box there.
Oh, it was wonderful.
Getting their move on. There's a king waving his flag and the Queen. Oh, I just loved it.
Oh, it's so good. At 9:15, the Daily Telegraph columnist Madeline Grant will be here giving us her take on all the big stories of the day.
And we want your take on them as well, please, particularly Coronation stuff. Let's be honest, let's be joyous, let's be patriotic. GB Views at gbnews.uk. And as Jill says, there's nothing wrong with being a patriot. I agree. I mean, all views are welcome, but actually, I don't mind being unashamedly patriotic this weekend. Why not?
And we all were, weren't we? It was a fabulous weekend. It really, really was. There's also some sports going on this weekend, would you believe? It's quite hard to... Well, it's quite easy to forget. Sorry, Paul. Paul Coyte's here.
That's all right.
But he's going to catch us up on everything that we might have missed yesterday.
By the way, I was the voice of Lionel Richie yesterday. Did you hear me singing? Yeah, just to let you know. A little exclusive. Thank you very much. He was lip-syncing to me just backstage. So as long as you were happy with it...
No, very good.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
You got him going. What went on with David De Gea?
Yes, you know what? He probably needs someone to stand in for him because there was what he did yesterday. Great goalkeeper over the years for Manchester United, but playing against West Ham, they lost 1-0 at West Ham, talk about a ricket. I don't know whether we can... That's probably the start of the ricket. The ball comes... Look, and it's like... You can't really see how bad it is from that because it just looks... You would think he was going to save that,
You
right?
would, yeah.
But no, and then it bounces up, goes behind him, and not good at all. The thing is, when you've got goalkeepers that struggle with, making rickets and catching the ball, it's often when they have too much time to think. Oh. It's the reaction saves are always there, but when goalkeepers go through a little bad time, it's usually, if the ball comes over slowly, you have to think about it, and that's when it's like, do I do this, do I do that? But that's what happened to David Hay yesterday. Not very good.
Happy news for Arsenal.
Yes, happy news for Arsenal. Well, yeah, they got a really good result yesterday away at Newcastle. See, Newcastle are playing really well. Arsenal, they'd had people saying, of Arsenal, are they choking? Does it look as if they're not going to... they're pretty much finished for the rest of the season? But Man City still are top, but Arsenal a good win 2-0 away at Newcastle. And you've got Mikel Arteta saying that they're still in with a shot. They're still going for it because it ain't over yet. There's still 4 games left. But I think Manchester City, most definitely. But there's huge games at the bottom today.
Well, I was going to say, it's like a relegation special today.
It really is a relegation special. You've got Leicester, who are playing away at Fulham. We've got Brighton are playing Everton. So Everton, they're struggling. And then you've got the 2 right down the bottom. You've got Forest and Southampton. So you rightly say a relegation special is absolutely on the money.
She's laughing at me for that.
It's because you come up with, every now and again, you'll come up with something so on the money. Do you think that I fed him this, Ellie? I haven't.
Well, I don't know.
I swear I haven't.
Where does he get him from? Because I think you're as clueless as me, and then you come out with these.
You see, I'm what's known as a semi-professional. What's happening in the Championship?
Last day of the Championship today. Last day of the Championship.
Thank heavens.
I know. Well, no.
No, thank heavens.
Why?
Because everyone's overstretched at the minute.
You think so?
Yeah.
Well, it's... Honestly, the last day of the Championship, Burnley have already won the title. So if they win today, then they will be the first team to get over 100 points in the Championship since 2014. Sheffield United are already up as well. And then we get to the playoffs. Now, this is the 4 teams that are below that will play off for that final place. Now, Luton are already in the playoffs. Now, you've got Luton Town, haven't been in the top flight for like 30 years. And have you ever been to Luton Town? Have you ever been to Kenilworth Road?
I haven't, no. I've been through Luton a lot,
I've been to the airport.
Have you? Well, you're very close.
Very close, actually.
But the thing is, you would miss it. If you went looking for Kenilworth Road in Luton, often you get stadiums and they stand out like, you can see them straight away. But it's almost in the middle of a housing estate. It's really bizarre. So it's the most unlikely to be a Premier League ground that you would ever see. But if Luton make it, it'd be an amazing story. You've got Middlesbrough are also there. Now, Coventry haven't been in the top flight for about 20 years, and they've been really up and down. They've lost their ground, they nearly went out of business, they had to move away, they dropped right down. So, it'd be incredible if Coventry make it. And then there's Millwall, so they're playing Middlesbrough. Tell me if I'm losing you.
No, everyone hates us, we don't care.
I didn't know you were a Millwall fan.
Millwall,
So,
that's a shout.
yeah, I'd never put you down as a Millwall fan. But they're in with a shot. They've never been in the top flight either. Sunderland, who've also dropped right down, so they're still in with a shot. And then you've got West Bromwich Albion and Blackburn. So there's so many teams still in with a chance. All to play for is correct. Yes.
And someone who's still playing and doing very well is Andy Murray.
Yes.
Do you have a word about him?
Andy Murray. So he hasn't won a title since 2019. And he won a tournament yesterday, and it was the Aix-en-Provence.
Oh, that one.
The Aix-en-Provence, which is on clay in France.
That's not his best surface, is it?
It's not his best surface, no, but I mean, he's done really well. Beat Tommy Paul, 17th in the world. Usual bad start for Andy. Lost the first set 6-2, turns it around 6-1, 6-2. Where are you pulling these from?
Yeah, where's he getting this from?
Honestly, it's like a magic trick.
It's because I listen.
You know what?
When you lot bleat
What
on, you see.
surface does he work?
Grass.
On grass.
Yeah, very good on grass. Well, former Wimbledon champion.
Yeah.
So of course, but it's much slower.
Look at her
Well, I'm learning today then.
Ellie, don't ask me. Ask him.
Ask Steve.
He's the guy that
He's sat in
knows.
your chair.
He's the guy that knows.
So how are we looking for Wimbledon then? I mean, he's playing well, isn't he?
Well, he's playing well, but Wimbledon that's going to be very tough. It's going to be extremely tough. I'm surprised, really, to be honest with you, that he is still playing. Because
it's a comeback.
His hips have gone.
The hips, I mean,
the knees.
Well, the hips have been operated on. Everything looks better, but he's getting older and older, but he won't give in. And it's the most difficult thing for any professional sportsman to do, is to decide when enough is enough. But if you go winning tournaments, you never know.
Yeah, well,
Sports broadcasters never know when it's time to give
Because
up.
it is enough.
Some have been told at least 20 years ago it was time to give up, but they continue to carry
just keep going. Can we have a look at Declan Rice? Because I like this.
Yeah, me too, because recently we've had footballers that have been in the press for being really horrible to fans. Now, Leeds, we showed that recently when they were at a Bournemouth hotel. They walked through, headphones on, not paying any attention, and then you get a kid standing there and they just walk right past them. Horrible.
Nice.
It happened at Arsenal when they were walking through into the tunnel for a game. It was an away game, and then there was the mascot, and they're just standing like that, and they just walk past her. So Declan Rice has proved that there are nice footballers out there. So this happened after the Manchester United game last night. I think we can have a look at this. And there we are now. I think there's sound with it, so we can hear. There's the little boy, the West Ham fan.
Are you crying?
Oh, look, he's crying. He can't believe it. He can't believe it. He's crying his eyes out. He's meeting his hero.
Come on. Yeah, do you know what? I did promise it to Rashford.
And he said, "Can I have your shirt?"
Because I'm just told I'm going to give it to Rashford. But I'll give him another one, yeah? Here you go.
Like he said, I was going to give the other shirt to Marcus Rashford, but I'll give him another one, and you can have that. Now, this little boy cannot believe it. And not only is he meeting his hero, it's not just a fist pump there. He puts his arm around him, and it's just a lovely, lovely moment.
That's the thing. It's the fact he's giving that lad a cuddle, I think, that's what you want to see.
But it's natural. You can see it's a natural thing to do. And I think everybody, and I've said it to footballers in the past as well, don't ever do this, and you don't ever ignore them, because that little boy will remember that for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
It happened to me with a footballer when I was a little kid. Never forgot it. It was like you.
Who was it?
It was a chap called John Pratt. Used to play for Spurs in sort of the 70s and 80s, and I went to watch them train, and he kicked the ball, and I put my hand up, and it hit my hand, and he came over and he went, "Are you all right, son?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine, thanks." And then he became my favourite player, and I know him to this day. I mean, it's probably like you meeting Reginald Bosanquet for the first time. Is that a similar sort of thing?
Goodness, Reginald.
So, but there we are.
Had a bottle of Chardonnay under the desk.
But meeting your heroes, and so sometimes they don't disappoint you, and they're obviously Declan Rice's.
I think that's a really good on him. Good
and
on
I
you,
hope
Mr.
other
Rice.
players will look at that and think, even whether we want to or not, that's what we need to do, because it's about the fans.
Yeah, and it's the right thing to do. As you say, it's about the fans.
Oh, can I have your shirt?
Yes, you can. Yes, of course you can. Yeah, what right now? Ellie, easy, Ellie.
Oh,
It's too early for all of that. Stop.
Paul, thank you.
Pleasure.
Thanks, Corey.
Oh, it's a bit of fun.
Oh, it is.
Anyway, you weren't joking, right? You weren't.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, right. Okay, fine.
He is joking. Don't worry, it's fine.
Definitely.
We've got more fun to come, though, haven't we?
We
We're
have.
going through the papers with Chris Akabusi and Nabila Ramdani. That's next. This is Breakfast on GB News.
I joined GB News because I was sick and tired of not hearing my views being represented, not just mine, but so many people that I knew and spoke to.
I just couldn't get my voice out there. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't do anything. Whatever the narrative was, I kind of had to follow it.
GB News is there to provide a voice for those who have been ignored by the establishment media. We think different things, we've got a different style.
GB News is here to be optimistic and positive about the future.
It's real kind of dynamic and flowing, with the audience very much at the heart of it, like a big family.
Here at GB News, we talk about the things that matter to you.
Hearing the voices from right across our towns and cities, especially our towns.
All sides of the argument represented with a heavy dose of opinion.
We're on a mission here to make a difference.
And the GB News family really is here for you, and whatever time of day you can watch or listen.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel. Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates. Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Start the day with GB News.
We catch up on all the big stories you didn't hear the night before.
And take a look at what the world's talking about this morning. That's right, Monday to Thursdays from 6 o'clock. It's Breakfast with Eamonn and Isabel.
Straight after breakfast, join us, Bev Turner and Andrew Pearce. We're going to take you through till noon.
We'll be tackling the big topics of the day, including the things that the other channels just won't talk about. If it's happening here. Wake up to mornings on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
New to GB News is the Saturday 5.
Join us every Saturday from 8 p.m. as we debate the week's stories. Right, folks, that was a spicy one, wasn't it?
With us four, plus a special guest.
Sometimes she has to stick her foot in it. Sometimes she has to say things as they are.
Sometimes I think we should keep the refugees and send the pensioners to Rwanda. Then we'd be in a much better state.
Well, Benjamin, that is...
The Saturday 5. Saturday nights from 8. Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it. So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics, and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m. Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There will be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's 8:35 morning to you. There's some just great pictures, great little quotes on the newspapers this morning. This is my favourite. Pa, we are so proud of you. The words of the Prince of Wales. That's on the front of the Times this morning, along with a lovely picture of the King and Queen waving last night.
In the Express, they've gone with the same sort of thing. The Prince of Wales also paid an emotional tribute to the Queen, saying he knew the late Queen would be fondly keeping an eye on us.
Yeah, it's a bit doubting Thomas for The Guardian, I'm afraid, this morning. It says, was the coronation magic or just an empty conjuring trick? Phew.
Lovely photo, though.
Nice
Let's look at the positives.
It's all about bringing us down,
The
though.
new King and Queen looking up at the red arrows fly
shot.
past. It's a great shot, isn't it? Well, look at the positives this morning. And what paper is this in?
This is The
This
Eye.
is in The Eye. It's a new poll that suggests the British public would be open for the King to get involved in politics. Yeah, we're not too sure about that one this morning.
No,
Well,
I like seeing the crowns, though, because we don't see the crowns on heads very often. I think it's really nice to see.
It is, yeah.
I like all of that. Anyway, let's see what Chris Akabusi, one of our greatest Olympians, and journalist and broadcaster Nabila Ramdani make of all of this. Good morning to you.
Morning, morning.
Someone here said that you should be Prime Minister, Chris. I got a... Oh, no, I'll tell you what it was. I'm looking for a view. It was a lady called Sybil Crowther who says... Chris Akabusi for Prime Minister.
Bless you, Sybil. Thank you so much.
So there you
You'd
go.
be good.
The money's in the post, Sybil.
Are you mad, Sybil? Are you mad? PMQs just go on for hours.
Absolutely.
Never end. Let's have a look at the song, Chris, should we?
Yes.
And Prince William.
Yeah, I just love the... So, really, you know, I'm a professional speaker, believe it or not, and... I just love the fact that the way Prince William opened up his presentation and he had it all. Comedy, timing, building rapport, use simile, metaphor. Also, I like the way that he referred to the Queen, which is a great, strong brand. I'm talking about Queen Elizabeth, the great brand. And he said, I want to say a few words about my father and why I believe this weekend is so important. But don't worry, unlike Lionel Richie, I won't be going all night long. All right, check him out. I think it's just so great.
It was great.
It was really, really good because it's so important to build rapport, to build connection, to have comedy, you know, to use story. That's the real key about presentations. You can get your point across, but it's got to be washed in these humour and so. I mean, he did it so well. You can see his polish. Clearly, he's got a script writer, but the Prince delivered it well.
See, I was worried. I was a bit worried because sometimes the royals are not particularly good performers, is it? And why should they be? It's not their, in a way, it's not their profession, is it? But so I thought, well, I hope he's going to do all right.
Yeah.
And as you say, he seems so natural.
Yeah.
It's really nice.
But he's come on, so yeah, he does seem natural, and that's a great thing, Steve. That you can say that, Stephen, that you can look at him and you can see that he's very natural. There's a lot of hard work. He's like the old swan. A lot of work's gone underneath. But the fact is, he's honed that craft. He understands he's Prince, heir apparent, one day will be king, and you've got no problems with him. You can send him anywhere, he understands his brief, and he can deliver it perfectly.
Yeah, yeah.
What was so lovely about that was you obviously had the ceremony, the coronation ceremony on Saturday where he pledged his allegiance, a very formal setting, and then we had this very informal, very loving pledge of allegiance, if you like, just saying, Pa, I love you, I'm here, we support you, and you're going to do great.
You can trust me, I'm behind you, I'm your main supporter, I'm behind you every step of the way. Deference, I know deference is something that we don't like to talk about, but there's a clear deference that he's shown to his father and the king. Like you said, he's done it in ceremonial matters and now also very publicly.
It's interesting you say about deference because there is the thing about deference now. Why should there be any sort of deference? But deference is actually respect.
Absolutely.
Isn't it? It's about showing respect to your elders, your betters, to people with more experience than you, even just in a workplace. And that shouldn't be a bad
towards
thing.
an institution as well,
Yeah.
which is at the heart of, you know, British life. You know, the king is also the head of state. You know, you can walk into any public building and you'll see a crown. You know, every aspect of British life revolves around the crown. And, you know, people should rightly, you know, show deference and respect towards the institution because it literally governs their lives. It is the United Kingdom.
Yeah, well, and it says, you know, we're not just a ragtag bobtail of people that come together. We actually have got order. We have got structure. We have got process procedure. We have got a constitution. We have got a way of living in the world. Because we are thrown into a world, it could be nature red in tooth and claw, but it says, no, actually, we are a society, we are a community, and this is how it works around here. And that's really important to remind yourself that you do belong to something. You're part of something.
Yeah.
And that's something we saw from the Prince of Wales, isn't it? It was that respect for the order of things.
Absolutely.
And knowing, you know, when the time comes, it will be him. But in the meantime...
Yeah.
Fully supportive.
Oh, there's no usurping going on here.
No. Which is not, and in terms of that sort of making us all feel part of it, ties in very nicely with the Prince and Princess cheering with the crowd at a street party yesterday.
Yes, absolutely. So there's this formal aspect of the monarchy But they also are normal people, dare I say, and they have to come across as relatable and not living in the bubbles. And they do an awful lot now to go out and about. And, the world is full of negative stories, so it's quite refreshing to see an entirely positive one across our newspapers today. And a lot has been made about the surprise visit of the Prince and Princess of Wales in Windsor. They went on a walkabout and just mixed with the crowds and shared beers and street food, and everybody was at it. Princess Anne was also out and about.
I love Princess Anne with a cup of tea. I love that.
You can't get more British than that, can you?
I love it. I just think it was a really, really nice thing.
And talking of, greeting children, and we just saw that lovely footage there in a sports roundup. Was it Declan Rice?
Yeah.
And we saw Princess of Wales yesterday, Catherine, and what a blessing she is to our royal family.
Yeah.
A child was really overwhelmed meeting her at a street party, crying because, she's obviously just so beautiful in real life, I can imagine. And she just cuddles this little child and just comforts her, and it's just such a beautiful...
She's a very impressive
natural
person, to be honest, because ever since she came into the royal family, she hasn't put a foot wrong.
No.
And she has accepted that the monarchy is about service. And she's been so dutiful in, serving the nation. She got that absolutely right. And she's absolute perfection. She's the best shop window as far as British, Great Britain, the brand of Great Britain is concerned. And dare I say, watching the coronation and watching the Prince of Wales and the Princess of Wales, being there, it's almost like they were watching, what's coming for them. They were watching the rehearsal for their own coronation. And they looked both so extremely regal. And it was a very reassuring feature.
No, I'm sure that's the case. I'm sure that's the case. I mean, it's quite clear that King Charles and Queen Camilla, they have a time, but they're not going to be as long as the previous Queen.
No.
And so you have seen that. You've seen William and Kate, and you've seen George as well. So you can see where we're going in the next 100 years. But along that same line, I saw something a few days ago where Princess...
Charlotte?
Not Charlotte, no.
Anne?
No.
you reckon
William
William.
Catherine. Catherine. And there was a young baby who'd stolen her bag.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And the beauty of it, the young son about the mum was mortified and was trying to get it back. But the way Princess Catherine left the bag with the baby, let them play, wasn't really worried about it, went away, and then came back and retrieved it later. Again, just such in touch, such humanity and such in touch, and it's a special moment for mum and baby.
Oh,
imagine that baby in 20 years' time, when you see the picture of herself grabbing hold of Princess Catherine's bag. That was a beautiful moment as well.
Yeah, the Queen's bag.
Oh, is it? Is that it? Oh, no. Oh, sauce.
No, but I love it. Do you know what? I was talking, before we move on to some of the other stories, because we've got one or two others, talking about, respect.
Yes.
And I think we lack respect in this country a little bit. I think we've lost it in some of the younger generations. And one of the things I love about you, Akabusi, is the fact, and it fills me with... I've got tremendous respect for you.
Bless you.
But the fact that you have respect for institutions and also for what you've achieved yourself. And the one thing I really love about you, and I know it's in your pocket...
Yeah.
I know it's in your pocket.
I love you, Steve. Yes, of course. Okay, I've actually taken to having it in a little bag now, because it used to slip out a few times. Yeah. So I've lost this a few times. But because I am so grateful to have been able to represent my country at the highest level, and this. I've had it since 1984, Steve. It's my Olympic silver medal. I've carried every day. It's 39 years of age now. I carry every day with me, and it just tells me that with a little bit of hard work, people on your right side, you can do great things. But you can't win something like this without an infrastructure. So again, Stephen, you are correct. You need infrastructure, you need structure, process, procedure, a time to perform. And that's what I love about the world that we're in. We are thrown into this world, but others have gone before us and created this infrastructure for which we can move, breathe, and have our being. So thank you very much, Steve, for letting me bring it out.
I love it.
Since Chris is showing off his kit, dare I say, can I show mine?
There we go.
I love my Union Jack
Because you are French Algerian, but a British citizen.
Yes.
And you say you wanted that because you've had opportunities here that you wouldn't have had elsewhere.
Well, absolutely. I think, Britain has effectively allowed me to build up a livelihood for myself. I would never have been able to follow the career path that I have chosen back in France for very simple and, dare I say, backwards reasons, because I would have been held back by my Arab heritage, my Muslim heritage, my working class roots, my immigrant roots. And when I came to the UK, none of that came into consideration. What do you have to offer? Are you good at anything? And that's how, I built my life, doing what I love in this great nation. And it was quite moving, because you watch the Coronation and you think, King Charles, the 21st century. But, there is this incredible link with the past. If you put this into perspective, William I was crowned in the exact same way back in 1066. So we're really talking about something that's stable, that brings continuity, and that brings unity. And we underestimate the fact that the constitutional monarchy has been a very... if you look at near neighbours in Europe, including France, which have been far more, violent in their revolutions, far more bloodletting has been gone on, Britain has chosen a very smooth, pragmatic path to progress.
Yeah.
But also adding what you said there, I mean, we talked earlier on in another one is about meritocracy and progress, and like what the King showed, where we had Baroness Amos and Lady Florida Benjamin, at the highest table, at the highest office. This is history. That's such a significant moment, and showing that with a gift and ability, you can prosper in the United Kingdom. Right to the highest table.
It's fabulous. We've got to leave it there, but you know what? It is such a joy having you both on today.
Thank you very much indeed.
And feel this before we go. The weight of this.
There's no chocolate in there.
Oh, I know. I've had my hands on this lots of times. It's always very difficult to give it back.
Oh, it's amazing.
It's lovely.
Oh, Chris, it's treasure, isn't it?
Thank you. It's a real pleasure. Thank you so much.
Wonderful.
Lovely. Thanks both.
Thank you.
Now, the government has announced £240 million worth of funding for GP practices aimed at helping patients to get appointments more quickly.
Yeah, the Health Secretary says the funding will help surgeries replace old phone systems with modern technology. But what does Labour think about all of this? Let's talk to Andrew Gwynn, who's the Shadow Minister for Public Health. Good morning to you. It's lovely to see you this morning. I mean, look, this has got to be a step in the right direction, hasn't it?
Well, in itself, there are things that make sense in the announcement, but there is nothing in this announcement that warrants it to be headline news. There's nothing in it that will train more doctors, that will enable patients to use a face-to-face appointment, or that will bring back the family GP. It's a very shallow offer, tinkering around at the edges. What we really ought to have had was the government's workforce strategy, something we've been calling for on the Labour benches for some time, that sets out how we are going to get the extra doctors, the extra staff in the NHS that we need to be able to transform the NHS into the service we want it to be.
Yes, but whilst we wait for that, we do need to tinker around the edges, don't we? In a way that people will feel and notice quickly.
Well, we need a complete transformation of primary care, because primary care hasn't worked for quite some time, and that involves utilising facilities that are in almost every community, the community pharmacy, much more effectively, enabling pharmacists to be able to prescribe more treatments than they are able to do at the moment, to be able to perform more tests and procedures than they're able to at the moment, and to consult with patients in a way that they're not able to at the moment as well. So that would then release GP appointments for the people that genuinely need to see a GP face to face. And so we need a whole-scale reform of how we deliver primary care. And that's something that we've been setting out our own plans for alongside the workforce strategy that's needed. And we've said that we would train an extra 7,500 new GPs paid for by abolishing the non-dom tax status. So we've set out our plans. We're desperate for the government to nick them because we need to get on with rebuilding the NHS as quickly and as proficiently as possible.
I mean, it does seem as though Labour is saying that everything is costed and everything's going to be afforded through the abolition of the non-dom tax status. That seems to be the answer to everything at the moment. I mean, first of all, is that fully costed? And also, aren't these tax rates just going to push the talent that we're talking about out of this country?
Well, firstly, independent sources like the IFS show that there is no evidence that there would be anything like the behavioural changes that the Conservatives are saying would happen if we abolished non-dom tax status. It would bring in about £3.2 billion, and Labour has made two pledges for that funding. Some of it is for early years and some of it is for the NHS, and we would use it to put in a workforce plan that would train the next generation of nurses, doctors, healthcare workers, social care staff, and as far as this announcement's concerned, 7,500 new GPs. It is fully costed, and we're ready to go with it.
One thing you slipped in earlier, which I thought was interesting, it was hidden away, was you said, you know, we need this sort of total reform of primary care. I mean, we need to rip it up and start again with GPs, do we? And does that then apply to the rest of the NHS?
Well, it's not rip it up and start again, but it's trying to fix what has gone wrong over a long period of time. We have fewer GPs now than we had in 2010 when Labour left office, and it is much more difficult to get to see a GP. The family doctor is almost universally a thing of the past. You're lucky to see somebody at all, let alone the same person. But there is a better way of doing this. We recognise that with new technology, we are able to transform primary care, but also utilising some of the facilities that are in almost every community, like the community pharmacy. We can utilise those facilities much more efficiently to ensure that those people that don't need to see a GP, but often use a GP appointment, are able to get fast and effective treatment or advice, and those that do need to see a GP are able to do so as and when they need it.
You've got 5 seconds, Andrew Gwynn. Did you have a good Coronation weekend?
I did. I was at the Abbey, so it was superb.
Oh, wow.
Wow, what was it like inside the Abbey?
Well, apart from the fact that I now know that my bladder can withhold anything, because we were in from 7:30 in the morning and couldn't leave until gone 1:30 in the afternoon and wasn't allowed a toilet break. It was a magical, mystical experience, a great celebration of kingship, of the Constitution, and the best of British. The music was superb. Oh, I still got to pinch myself that I was there.
OK, Andrew Green, really good to talk to you this morning. I'm off for a toilet break. We've got your headlines coming up after your weather.
Good morning, I'm Greg Dewhurst and welcome to your latest GB News weather. We've got rain spreading eastwards through the day, some really heavy showers following, particularly across Northern Ireland. Thundery downpours possible. And looking at the bigger picture, change is happening at the moment. The Atlantic weather systems are moving in, bringing heavy showers, longer spells of rain, and this continues for much of the week ahead as well. The temperatures in any sunshine not doing too bad, though sunshine quite limited today, particularly across England and Wales and Scotland. Outbreaks of rain pushing eastwards, could be heavy at times. Into the afternoon, we see the skies brighten across Northern Ireland. Some really heavy showers developing here, some hail, some thunder. Localised flooding is possible. So a Met Office warning in force here. Brighter skies eventually moving into Scotland too, but much of England and Wales staying cloudy with further outbreaks of rain. As a result, temperatures a little lower, generally the mid to high teens, perhaps close to 20 Celsius in the best of any sunnier breaks towards Northern Ireland. The showers should start to ease into the evening time, but still further rain pushing east across England and Wales into the early hours, but eventually it does start to become drier. We see some clear spells developing, but still over the hills some light rain and drizzle in places. Temperatures with all that cloud around generally holding up in double figures, but it does mean quite a grey start to Tuesday morning. Still some outbreaks of rain across the north and east of the UK. Some of the rain heavy at times across northeast Scotland, but it should brighten up through the morning into the afternoon, but that will trigger some heavy showers, particularly across eastern England. Also some more prolonged showers moving into the south and the west, some of these heavy and thundery. In between, plenty of sunny spells, and again temperatures lifting towards 20 Celsius. So with light winds in that sunshine, it won't feel too bad. Going forward, Wednesday through to Friday, it stays largely unsettled. There'll be showers, some longer spells of rain at times, and temperatures generally around average, but feeling fairly pleasant in any sunshine.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Jacob Rees-Mogg. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, Nana, stop arguing. I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment.
I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different. Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage. Here on GB News, we will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, the Member of Parliament for North East Somerset and a former government minister. For years, I've walked the corridors of power in both Westminster and the City of London. We need to have the arguments, the discussions on how we make it better.
Crop failures, famine, war, suffering on a scale completely unimaginable.
We are putting the cart before the horse. As Charles I said at the scaffold, he was the true defender of liberty.
Yeah, I've completely derailed the conversation.
Join me Monday to Thursday at 8 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News has its own late-night paper preview show, Headliners, where comedians take you through the next day's top news stories. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper, we've got it covered for you. Headliners, every night at 11 p.m. and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, on Sunday mornings from 9:30, taking the politicians to task and breaking out of SW1 to see how their decisions are affecting you across the UK. Bursting the Westminster bubble every Sunday morning, only on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain's watching.
You've probably seen politicians interviewed 1,000 times, but we do it differently. We find out who they really are, we don't shout, we chat, and hopefully we bring a bit of light, not just heat.
Did you know,
All
Kate
sorts
Moss?
of rooms. Apparently.
Do you have a pair of jeans or a pair of jeans?
No, of course I don't. What would I do with them?
My friends are like, oh my God, what's she doing now?
Join me every Sunday at 6 for Gloria Meets, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's 9 o'clock on Monday, the 8th of May. Good morning to you. And today,
As my grandmother said when she was crowned, coronations are a declaration of our hopes for the future. And I know she's up there, fondly keeping an eye on us, and she'll be a very proud mother.
the love of a nation, the love of a son. The Prince of Wales pays tribute to the King at the Coronation concert last night. Roll your sleeves up after a weekend of fun. Today is the big royal help out as we're all encouraged to get volunteering.
No more 8 a.m. misery on the phone. The Health Secretary promises to end the appointment chaos with a new online booking tool. And can we build new business ties with Hong Kong? The UK minister is heading there for the first time since 2018 and China's crackdown on the territory. Good morning to you. I'm Stephen Dixon.
And I'm Ellie Costello, and this is Breakfast on GB News.
Oh, so many of you getting in touch, and it's lovely. I think the momentum's still going about the coronation. Hillary, and I spotted this, Hillary. Thought it was really nice. My favourite royal family moment last night was Charlotte's huge surprise and excitement as she saw her daddy walking onto the stage to make his speech. It was sweet to see her nudging George and pointing to the stage.
Oh.
Look, it's Daddy. What's he doing down there?
So lovely.
It was really nice. It was really sweet.
It was those family moments, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think
even
so.
The Princess of Wales, when the Prince of Wales started talking, you could see her kind of chuckle and laugh at his joke about Lionel Richie, and he promised he wasn't going to go on all night long, and she just kind of went, oh, there he goes, that kind of thing. It was lovely. Really, really nice to see their closeness. Fergus says, my tears came as I watched our brave armed services marching on Saturday. I think for many people that's what really caught them.
There is something awe-inspiring about seeing that many people march, looking as they look and marching or riding as they do with such precision. There is something just awe-inspiring about that, and I don't know why. I don't know what it is about us. It just touches part of us, I think, to see that.
I think it's just the show of strength and the discipline, and they just look pristine. And in terms of...
But also, these are people who would and have and are willing to give their lives for this country and their monarch. And I think that must never be forgotten.
Well said.
Lovely.
Yes, very well said. It was beautiful. It really, really was. Julian, a little bit more different there. Hi, Stephen Nelly. Just wondering, when you're outside doing a fantastic job on the coronation, what did you have to eat?
Nothing.
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 Oh, you can't really. You haven't got time.
No.
You haven't got time. Quick swig of coffee and that's it.
And that's it. Yeah, on Saturday, we actually didn't have any ad breaks, did we?
No,
For
we dropped all the ad breaks.
We dropped them all. We dropped all the scripts. It was just us having a chit-chat for 3 hours.
It was really fantastic. But of course, it did mean we had to do an emergency trip to the Portaloos as soon as we came off air.
We did.
But there you go. That's all part of the fun. It's part of the fun.
Behind the scenes insight for you there.
Yeah, it's lovely. It's a lovely thing to do, though. It's a privilege, an honour, a pleasure.
And a joy, wasn't it? A total joy. I'm
really
glad that you enjoyed it too. Thank you for all your lovely comments about the coverage, about the coronation, about your weekend. Keep them coming in. gbviews@gbnews.uk. But it's not over yet, is it?
No, it's not, because millions of us will continue to mark the coronation weekend by taking part in volunteering events. That's all part of what they're calling the Big Help Out.
Yes, it follows on, of course, from last night's coronation concert that saw Katy Perry, Ollie Murs and Lionel Richie take to the stage to celebrate King Charles.
Well, yesterday, of course, did you take part in this? Lots and lots, thousands of communities coming together for lunches and street parties right across the country. With a roundup, here's Paul Hawkins.
Drinking, toasting, eating, connecting. After the coronation came community. From Drumbo in Northern Ireland to Downing Street, coast to castle. Millions of people tucked into 50,000 big lunches across the country.
Lisa, can I give you something?
I'll have your bones as well, you know.
In Windsor, there was a surprise visit. The Prince and Princess of Wales popping into a big lunch on the long walk. The evening saw 20,000 people pack into the grounds of Windsor Castle for a star-studded concert. And there were appearances from some members of the royal family.
Pa, we are all so proud of you. God save the King.
And for those who couldn't be there in person, video messages from the likes of Tom Cruise.
Your Majesty, you can be my wingman anytime.
The centrepiece of the concert, however, was the Lighting Up the Nation project. Projections, lasers and drone displays. Lighting up Windsor and the UK. A celebration fit for a king. Paul Hawkins, GB News.
Fabulous. Let's talk to author and royal editor of Vanity Fair, Katie Nicholl, who's here. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Now, here's one for you. I hope this doesn't sound controversial.
Go on.
I didn't think I would particularly enjoy the concert, and I loved it.
So did I. I think, you know what, we're all very British about this, because when you look back at the coverage about the concert, it was all a bit wet, it was all a bit drab, it was all, well, we haven't got Elton John, we haven't got Ed Sheeran. We didn't, but do you know what? It didn't matter, because it was a brilliant lineup. The drone display was wonderful. We didn't see the royals dancing on the ceiling, but we saw them dancing in the royal box, and they were pretty fantastic. I've done lots of concerts. I've never seen them really get up and bopping like that. And,
no, the Duchess of Edinburgh.
I was just going to say, Sophie, the Duchess of Edinburgh, she was really going for it. And how wonderful to see them having such a good night. And I spoke to someone close to the King this morning. I said, well, how is he feeling? Because he did a pre-party, pre-concert party, an after-party, did that skit for American Idol. You know, brilliant. The source said, exhausted, ... knackered. And I was like, do you know, I'm not surprised.
No.
They need a good rest now, because it has been a pretty epic weekend for them. And of course, on Saturday, the day that he's waited his entire life for. You imagine the emotional energy that goes into a day like that. But I think overall it has been a great success. And as you say, it continues today with the big help out.
Absolutely. It's been a massive success. And it's interesting when you touch upon the emotion of it, because there must be so much emotion for the King, especially in those family moments, especially Prince William last night speaking of his pa and saying how proud his late mother, Queen Elizabeth II, would have been. It was perfect.
It was one of those sort of spine-tingling moments, really got you. And I think, you know, the Prince of Wales has had a very central role in all of this. I mean, he swore allegiance to his father, the King, in front of us all on Saturday. That pledge to be his liege man of life and limb, echoing the words of his grandfather, who made that same pledge to the Queen at her coronation, echoing his words to his mother at his own investiture, Charles's investiture I'm talking about. And so for me, within that whole ceremony of the coronation, it was almost like an investiture of the Prince of Wales as well.
Yes,
we're not having that ancient ceremony, but it felt that way. And then to see it in a more informal and, as you say, Ellie, sort of familial way on stage was absolutely lovely. And I think he spoke for the nation, really, not just the royal family. I think people do feel very proud of Charles. And Stephen, we were just talking about it on air, just before we went on air, about I think people have really come round to understand the man who is now our king. I hope so, because I think he's a good man with genuine intentions, and he is a king in a hurry, because he's got a lot to do in what's likely to be, he's 75, a relatively short period of time.
She's talking sort of 20 years, aren't you, sort of thing. I know it sounds a bit grim, but that's the reality of the situation.
Yes, and I think, you know, before everyone takes the bunting down and we sort of start dissecting every bit of it, enjoy this moment. We should enjoy it as a country, because it's going to be a very long time before we get that bunting out again. I mean, you only get a jubilee when you've celebrated 25 years on the throne. We know there's longevity in those Windsor genes,
but the chances of Charles having a silver jubilee are probably unlikely. What will the next big step? Will it be George's wedding? Will it be the coronation of King William? You know, it's going to be a while. I think we're going to see some big international tours. We're going to see the royals on the international stage, very busy, and the king getting back to work. But I think a bit of a rest before then.
Yeah.
What has the impact of this weekend been, do you think? Because Britain, and indeed the British royal family, was taken centre stage across the world.
I think it's hard to put into words the impact. I mean, when I think of those pictures of the street party yesterday at Downing Street with Jill Biden and the Prime Minister, you know, you can't put a price on that when you're thinking about the international relations and what that has forged, the Commonwealth and the representation that they had. We know there's a big question about the future of the Commonwealth and what it's going to look like. But I think the royal family can ride on a tide of goodwill for now. But the hard work starts. It never really stopped. But they really do have to prove what they do and show us that they are in touch with us. Well, I think you see that through the likes of William, and that they're doing good work and that they're vital, because we need to see that. And I think, you know, most people are behind the monarchy. All the polls suggested that 2/3 of us would rather have them than not have them. But I still think there's a lot to be done.
Do you know what feels nice? Is that, because often we feel embarrassed to be patriotic, particularly in England, and it's a very odd situation. I feel so patriotic, and proudly so, and we should really embrace that, shouldn't we?
I absolutely think we should. I think there's been a lot of putting Britain down, and you know, just thinking there's been a lot of negative headlines, and actually, yesterday and over this weekend, we have been centre stage. We show what we do best. You were talking earlier about the military precision. I think very hard to watch that and not feel a great sense of pride in our armed forces. And I think hard to watch this weekend and not feel a sense of pride in the royal family.
And the causes that they work so hard for as well. I mean, that was certainly a focus last night, wasn't it?
Absolutely. And at the coronation, within that congregation, the number of ordinary people, NHS workers, that wonderful choir that was formed of just regular singers around the country getting to perform in front of the world. You know, when you think back to the King as the Prince of Wales, the first thing he did when he left the Royal Navy was to set up the Prince's Trust, to give young people a rung on the ladder, to give them a voice. And he continues to do that as King. And I think it's a very powerful message to
Can I just say as well, one of the best moments for me, and I know I've mentioned this before, but the fact that Floella Benjamin, Baroness Benjamin, played a key role, and I know that's all to do with diversity and inclusion, that's a key part of it, but actually for me, she's one of those people who, of my generation, influenced a whole generation of preschoolers.
Absolutely.
You know, she was the first blackface I ever saw, ever, and that didn't register with me. But she's played a key part in my early years' development.
Absolutely.
And to see that, from her doing that, to playing a key role in the coronation, I just find that overwhelming.
It was wonderful, and she must have been absolutely delighted. And I think just making that point on diversity, but also the inclusion of women.
Yes.
To have 2 female bishops involved, to have so many women involved in that ceremony. And Penny Mordaunt there with her sword. You know, how wonderful. It had all of the ancient ceremony that you would expect of a coronation. But it had that wonderful touch of modernity, and I think at the heart said so much about the reign of King Charles III. It is about service, it is about diversity, it is about multi-faiths, it is about inclusion.
Love it. I could almost, honestly, I can feel myself going again. It's terrible.
Don't. Hold it together.
Katie, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank
It has been an emotional experience for so many people, hasn't it, this weekend? So much pride.
Terrible. Honestly, I am a wreck this weekend. Total wreck.
It's been wonderful.
And should I bump into Floella any time soon? I'd love to see her again.
You do.
Honestly, do you know, last time I saw her, she just held my hand. First time I've met. That was the first time I'd met her, and she just held my hand and said, "You're one of my play school babies." And I was just like, "Oh."
That's lovely.
She's such a nice lady.
What a nice memory. Really lovely.
Anyway, there you go.
Well,
enough of me bleating on.
To the Point is coming up at 9:30. Dawn Newsom and Emily Carver are here to tell us all about it. Ladies, what's coming up?
Did you get Humpty Dumpty?
Oh,
Did
yes.
you have a Humpty Dumpty or a Big Ted?
I had a Big Ted.
Did you? Oh, what was the name of the doll? Remember the dolls?
Jemima.
Jemima. Yeah, I had Jemima.
It's lovely to see you welling up with pride for your country.
It's lovely,
Isn't that
yeah.
nice? It's rather nice.
It was lovely.
We're going to be giving our assessment of last night's concert. We'll wait to tell you what we thought of it.
Yes, we will. And we have we have two royal exclusives.
We do?
We have one royal exclusive about the actual coronation ceremony itself.
Oh.
But you'll have to watch to find out what that is. And we actually have an exclusive chat with one of King Charles's friends, revealing what he said to him before going to the ceremony on Saturday morning.
Oh, wow.
Two amazing exclusives.
And most importantly, we have Mike Barry on for our paper review.
Sorry, yeah. Can't have everything in life.
No. Well, he's a royalist.
He is.
Absolutely, yeah.
There you go.
We were going to do the girl power thing, because, you know, here we are, two girls, girl team, and then we had Mike Barry on.
Well, there you go.
Well, it's balance,
What can I
isn't
say?
it? And
Balance.
inclusion and
Exactly,
the spirit of
diversity.
King Charles
Yes,
III.
absolutely, yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, lots to look forward to, ladies.
Great stuff.
Really looking forward
We'll
to
see you at
that.
9:30.
It's going to be brilliant.
Now, can the government sort out GP appointments? That's a question for columnist Madeline Grant, who's going to discuss that very shortly. This is GB News.
I joined GB News because I was sick and tired of not hearing my views being represented, not just mine, but so many people that I knew and spoke to.
I just couldn't get my voice out there. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't do anything. Whatever the narrative was, I kind of had to follow it.
GB News is there to provide a voice for those who have been ignored by the establishment media. We think different things, we've got a different style.
GB News is here to be optimistic and positive about the future.
It's real kind of dynamic and flowing, with the audience very much at the heart of it, like a big family.
Here at GB News, we talk about the things that matter to you.
Hearing the voices from right across our towns and cities, especially our towns.
All sides of the argument represented with a heavy dose of opinion.
We're on a mission here to make a difference.
And the GB News family really is here for you, and whatever time of day you can watch or listen.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned.
I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Start the day with GB News.
We catch up on all the big stories you didn't hear the night before.
And take a look at what the world's talking about this morning. That's right, Monday to Thursdays from 6 o'clock. It's Breakfast with Eamonn and Isabel.
Straight after breakfast, join us, Bev Turner and Andrew Pearce. We're going to take you through till noon.
We'll be tackling the big topics of the day, including the things that the other channels just won't talk about. If it's happening here. Wake up to mornings on GB News. The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
New to GB News is the Saturday 5.
Join us every Saturday from 8 p.m. as we debate the week's stories.
Right, folks, that was a spicy one, wasn't it?
With us four, plus a special guest. Sometimes she has to stick her foot in it. Sometimes she has to say things as they are.
Sometimes I think we should keep the refugees and send the pensioners to Rwanda. Then we'd be in a much better state.
Well, Benjamin, that is...
The Saturday 5. Saturday nights from 8. Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it. So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m. Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There'll be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Now, lots to talk about now. The government has announced plans to end what it calls the 8 a.m. scramble for GP appointments. Well, we all know what that's like, don't we? How are they going to do it, though? Let's talk to columnist and parliamentary sketch writer for The Telegraph, Madeline Grant. Good morning.
Morning.
Look, everyone could breathe a sigh of relief at the thought of this. It's whether they can make it work.
Well, exactly. I mean, it is an absolute nightmare. I've been trying and failing to get an appointment for several days now, and then eventually I spoke to someone and I was told that the next available appointment was in like 2 weeks' time. It's just not very helpful.
No.
I think what they are hoping to do is to speed up the process by bringing in some new technology and making it quicker. But I do wonder if the problem is one of like simple supply and demand, too many people, not enough GPs. How do you get around that? All the technology in the world is not going to do that.
No, that's a very fair point.
And I mean, a part of this is that additional training for receptionists. So 6,500 new receptionists and additional training to make them care navigators, which means that basically they're going to act as a triage system and they're basically telling people where they need to go. But it does mean, as Stephen mentioned earlier, it means that you have to be willing to tell the receptionist why you want to see a doctor,
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't thought of that, especially over the phone, you know.
Yeah.
And it's, I suppose as a country, we're perhaps not the most forthcoming with kind of bearing it all in public at the best of times.
No, it's a bit of a funny one, isn't it? It's interesting with the world of politics at the moment because all these ideas and things, and we're going to get back to normal pretty soon. But the reality is everything is swamped, and rightly so, by the Coronation.
Yes.
And we can almost push politics to the side for a couple of days.
And isn't it lovely when we do?
Yeah,
I mean, obviously it can't go on forever, but it's just been glorious to be able to talk about, you know, the coronation spoon from the 12th century or Edward the Confessor's ring. It's a kind of wonderful, comforting thing. But perhaps it is a bit of a comfort blanket because we know that tomorrow when everyone's back at work, we will actually have to deal with the very real problems that are facing our country.
Yes, of course. So you were watching the coronation, but it was a bit of a different experience for you because you were at a wedding.
Yes, I was, and it was in a very remote part of Scotland. So I had not the best internet in the world, so I was also attempting to get ready for a wedding, so I was sort of curling my hair whilst watching it on my phone. So perhaps not the kind of awe-inspiring experience that some people had, but I'll admit that despite that, I got very emotional during the anointing. I mean, who could fail to be moved at that point? And when Zadok the priest started blaring through Westminster Abbey.
Do you know, isn't it a funny thing? We were talking to David Starkey yesterday, because whereas a lot of people have said, and there were aspects to the service that were more modern, I mean, because of the diversity and inclusion, all those sort of things. But David Starkey saying, to him, it was such a it was almost a medieval service. And
Yes.
actually, again, that's quite comforting, isn't it?
It's wonderfully comforting, and I thought it was interesting that the attempts to modernise the service, and there really were not many. I think David Starkey is absolutely right about that. Essentially, you have the processional bit that can modernise and move with the time, but fundamentally at its heart is a very Anglican and with traditions dating back to the Middle Ages. But, you know, despite all of that, the ceremony remained very much unchanged. And I think the attempts to change it mostly appeared to have come from Lambeth Palace. So it was things like updating the words in the service to explain a bit more than they had in the 1953 section. So rather than handing over the dove and sceptre, he would say, I'm handing over the dove and sceptre, which represents this.
Yeah.
So to make it a bit more explainy for people, but not really altering the heart of it.
Do you know what I find really quite moving is the emotion behind all of it? Because you touched upon there, the anointing, you felt really moved. You said something really similar with the music. And
The music and the actual crowning, I thought.
And Cameron Walker, our royal correspondent, felt the same. There's something about being British, isn't there? And seeing this magnificent historical event, it just evoked so much emotion in all of us, didn't it?
I know, it's extraordinary to think that, you know, ancestors if you happen to have, I don't know, an ancestor in the 11th century that was in London and watched William the Conqueror's procession into Westminster Abbey, much of what they would have seen is completely unchanged to what we witnessed obviously a bit more glitz and glam and Anton Deck in the audience. But it's pretty, I mean, I really don't understand republicanism at the best of times, but I just think, why would you want to torch 1,000 years of rich history and all its weird and wackiness and replace it with, well, what exactly? I don't know.
It would be politics, wouldn't it? It would be a head of state, it would be an elected leader. And I think the idea of a monarchy is that it's for everybody.
Yes.
You know, that
Exactly.
it's above politics.
Oh, and talking, I was going to mention that, talking being above, rising above things, there are these reports that Charles, at the Coronation dinner, raised a toast to his grandson Archie, on what, of course, was his 4th birthday.
I thought that was really touching, and you know, I have started to feel a bit sorry for Prince Harry. I think, you know, he could have not come. Actually, fair play to him. He could have not come, albeit it was very much a flying visit. But he did turn up to represent, and you know, its family rifts are really tragic, whoever they happen to. But for one to be playing out so publicly with the eyes of the world on it, I really can't imagine what that must be like. And obviously, he has himself to blame in large part for this, but it's really quite sad to think of, you know, William and Kate and their lovely children being there to participate, and then Harry just getting back on a plane and heading back. And I think, actually, it really seems as though the King is keen to bring him back into the fold and to extend the olive branch at every opportunity.
Yeah, which says a lot about the man he is, I think.
Yeah, and he said it even in the Christmas speech, didn't he, that they are much-loved members of the family.
Exactly, exactly.
Madeline, as always, really good to see you. Thank you very much indeed.
Well, it's been wonderful, hasn't it? We've had the best week. We've had the best weekend with you all. So thank you so much for joining us. It's Eamonn and Isabel back at 6 o'clock tomorrow. But up next, it's Dawn Newsome and Emily Carver with To The Point.
Coming up at 9:30, it is us. We are not Andrew Pearce and we are not Bev Turner,
Well, you can identify. I'm Dawn Newsome, she's Emily Carver, and we've got 2 cracking royal exclusives for you, including how many pints we're going to drink today. Not us, obviously.
Later, of course. We're also going to be giving our hot take on the concert last night. What did you think of it? We have some differing opinions, I think.
And we might actually have a little sing-song, all coming up very soon, so don't you dare go anywhere. That's To The Point at 9:30 with Emily and Dawn.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Deebs & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Jacob Rees-Mogg. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, no, stop arguing. I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment.
I came to GB News because it's the people's channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different.
Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage. Here on GB News, we will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, the Member of Parliament for North East Somerset and a former government minister. For years, I've walked the corridors of power in both Westminster and the City of London. We need to have the arguments, the discussions on how we make it better.
Crop failures, famine, war, suffering on a scale completely unimaginable.
We are putting the cart before the horse. As Charles I said at the scaffold, he was the true defender of liberty.
Yeah, I've completely derailed the conversation.
Join me Monday to Thursday at 8 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News has its own late-night paper preview show.